Chapter 964. Singluan looked at Singli with a complicated expression as countless thoughts churned in his mind. He had gradually learned about Tan Xiu's character after getting in touch with Tan Xiu. If he didn't kill Singguo now and ended the power struggle with him, it was very likely that Tan Xiu would never help him again in the future. What should I do? Should I kill him? Or not? Tan Xiu floated over and landed beside Singluan, saying indifferently, "If I remember correctly, your ultimate goal is not just to kill your big brother. If you want to become the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan and monopolize the power of the clan, you must kill everyone who dares to oppose you. Do keep in mind that soft-heartedness is bound to bring you endless troubles in the future." Singluan's expression slightly changed and he shot a deep look at Tan Xiu. He then raised the long saber in his hand and fiercely shouted, "Everyone, heed my order. Singguo must be killed today. Whoever dares to interfere will be killed without mercy." Singli's expression drastically changed. He glared fiercely at Tan Xiu and angrily shouted, "Isn't that enough, Singluan? Could it be that your ultimate goal is to kill your father as well? You've won today, so the position of the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan is bound to be yours. Why do you still want to kill your brother?" "My father is very good to me, so I naturally won't kill him," said Singluan coldly. "But he's old and has been cultivating all day, so he doesn't have much time to manage the clan's affairs. Since he has no time to manage it, why not let me replace him and become the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan? As for Singguo, he and I have reached the point where one of us has to die. Do you think he'll obediently bow down to me if I let him go today? Get the hell out of here or I'll kill you too." Singli was so angry that he laughed and shouted, "Singluan, you're so stubborn and insist on killing your big brother, so we have no choice but to help him. The 13 shaman guardians will protect Singguo as he leaves. The 3 of you have already reached this point. Do you think you can still leave here alive?" Singguo's 3 guardian elders looked at each other. They understood what Singli meant at that moment. As miserable laughter came from their mouths, the 3 of them instantly gathered together. As their bodies soared into the sky, layers of black flames appeared around them. One of Singguo's guardian elders shot a deep look at Tan Xiu and loudly said, "Young man from China, you're indeed very powerful and can be considered as a very powerful figure in the cultivation world. Just now, you broke the darkness forbidden technique that my brothers used, but I want to know if you can easily break the darkness forbidden technique that the 3 of us cast together?" Tan Xiu clasped his hands behind his back and sneered, "Is that so? Are you sure it was done by the 3 of you?" Near that protector elder, as the air distorted, a black figure instantly appeared behind him. A long sword pierced through his heart at lightning speed, and then cut off the muscles, bones, and meridians on the left side of his chest. The sharp sword light flashed with cold light, and then chopped off the arm of the protector elder on the left side. "Leave these 3 clowns to us, Grandmaster." Tang Guang soared into the sky, his white robe rustling in the air. In nearly an instant, he and Tang joined forces to lay a sword array that swept away the black flames and trapped the 2 black-robed protector elders inside. With a smile on his face, Tan Xiu retracted his gaze to Singli and indifferently said, "I'm afraid you're the only one who can cast the darkness forbidden technique now. But I'm very curious about whether you can rescue Singguo or not. I'm more curious about the strength of my subordinates and whether they can kill all the praise here." Mo laughed wildly and instantly appeared around the black mist with Jin Shi's group of 10. As they joined forces to lay the 10-square sky annihilation sword array, Mo laughed wildly and said, "They're just ants, boss. We can easily kill them. As for that old geezer named Singli, I'm afraid you'll have to deal with him yourself, boss." Singluan suddenly paced 2 steps forward and said in a deep voice, "There's no need for you to do it, Mr. Tang. I've long wanted to experience the abilities of the second strongest expert of our Dark Shaman clan. 5 protector elders, please join forces with me to kill him here." A strong sense of crisis rose inside Singli's heart. He had just observed the strength of Singluan and the 5 protector elders, and he knew that they were absolutely not to be underestimated. He was afraid that he wouldn't be their match even if the 6 of them joined forces. Furthermore, there was also Tan Xiu who was glaring at him like a tiger watching its prey, a ruthless character that made him dread even more. Inside the black mist, Sinquo, who was protected by the 13 shaman guardians, had an ashen face at the moment and despair filled his heart. He knew that he was utterly defeated. Even if he had the chance to make a comeback in the future, he wouldn't be able to contend with Singluan. He might still have the ability to fight Singluan if his 5 protector elders were still alive, but there was no chance for him to do so now or in the future. Cough, cough. After a violent cough, Sinquo slowly closed his eyes. But a few seconds later, he immediately opened them and shouted in a deep voice, "Singluan, I admit that you've won. Let us go and I'll leave Tea Country forever. I'll never come back to this land for the rest of my life." "My dear big brother, weren't you very smart before?" Singluan sneered. "How can you be so muddle-headed today? Do you think I'll let a tiger return to the mountain and leave a future trouble for myself? Your promise is worthless in my eyes. It's just like bullshit. Singluan, do you really want to kill us all?" Sinquo angrily shouted. "Do you really want to covet my father's position? The Dark Shaman clan has been silent for too long. What era are we in now?" Singluan snorted coldly. "If we want to live a better life in this era, we'll fall behind if we don't move forward. Let alone a puny Dark Shaman clan, I'll even bring my clan's children to contend with the Celestial Wizard clan in the future." A surging aura burst out from Sinquo's body. He raised his hands and placed the black scimitar horizontally in front of his chest. Then, he said in a deep voice, "If that's the case, then bring it on. As long as I don't die today, I'll keep entangling with you in the future until I kill you." Singluan's expression turned solemn and he fiercely said, "Talk is futile. Let's kill." Fight. The scene was even more tragic than before. The buildings in the coconut plantation collapsed and the coconut trees crashed to the ground. Broken branches and rotten leaves splashed everywhere. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. A few birds flapped their wings, passing by not far away. Unfortunately, there were many streaks of sword chi rampaging about, and waves of black fog spread out, and the black fog was shattered by the sword chi. On the water tower in the distance, Zuodequan's mouth twitched and a helpless look appeared in his eyes. The price of bringing disaster to Yang Qi was too high for him. He had been managing his nest for more than a decade, yet most of it was eventually destroyed because it became a battlefield for outsiders. "Boss," a middle-aged man angrily called out in a low voice. "There's no need to say more." Zuodequan shook his head and said, "I must pay the price for my mistake. This Tanshio is really ruthless. Not only did he kill so many people with his own hands, but he also remembered my refusal and destroyed my coconut plantation. If worst comes to worst, we'll just rebuild it after the fight is over." "What I'm worried about isn't the destruction of our site, boss," said the middle-aged man. "But there's an underground warehouse under our residence where we have stored a lot of gold. If the underground warehouse is exposed and the gold appears in front of those people, our losses will be too great." "Gold?" Zuodequan stared blankly for a moment before a horrified look appeared on his face. Before he left the coconut plantation, he didn't send his men to move away all the gold due to the increasingly intense feeling inside him. Instead, he sent his men to seal the entrance to the underground warehouse. But the fight there was too fierce and the building was destroyed. If the entrance to the underground warehouse was exposed, it was hard to say whether those people wouldn't be greedy enough to seize the gold he had hoarded. "What should I do?" Zuodequan paced back and forth for a few times before he suddenly recalled something. He immediately took out his mobile and dialed a number. After his call was picked up, he asked, "Have you settled Qing and the 2 kids?" "Yeah, they've been settled." A low voice of his trusted subordinate came out of the phone. "There's been some changes in the situation here," said Zuodequan. "Bring Qing and the 2 kids back secretly. Remember, you can't go to our coconut plantation anymore. You come from the southeast and come directly to Old Anja's place." "Understood," the other party replied and directly hung up the phone. Zuodequan put away his mobile and helplessly said, "I can only hope that Tanshio won't blame me for refusing them before for Qing's sake. If the gold is exposed, perhaps only Qing can help me protect it." "We must protect it, boss," said the middle-aged man in a deep voice. Otherwise, we won't be able to explain to Kanaja. Swadequan helplessly said, "Of course I know that. But those bastards over there are a bunch of demons and ghosts. We can't afford to provoke them." At this moment, more than 10 kilometers away, 3 black off-road vehicles sped toward the coconut plantation. In the 3 black off-road vehicles, there were 8 men and women dressed strangely with strange auras. They all carried cold weapons by their side, and there was even a faint smell of blood on their bodies. In another direction, more than a dozen cars were also rushing toward the coconut plantation's direction. In one of the cars, Kanaja's eyes flickered. "Big boss, if we go there now, won't we be implicated if the two sides really fight?" Songzan couldn't help but ask with a bit of worry in his eyes. "If we're implicated, then we'll choose a side directly," said Kanaja lightly. "If not, then we'll drink and chat with the winner." Bangkok's situation is about to change. A dragon crossing the river and a bunch of local snakes are coming. It'll be very troublesome in the future if we don't prepare early. Chapter 965. The battle in the coconut plantation was bloody and violent. In order to kill the enemy and survive, both sides no longer hid their strength and unleashed all kinds of means, destroying most of the dozens of acres of coconut plantation and turning all the buildings inside into ruins. The Dark Shaman clan was inferior to the Celestial Wizard clan, and the experts of the Dark Shaman clan couldn't be compared to the Celestial Wizard clan's experts. Therefore, even though Singli was the second strongest expert of the Dark Shaman clan, he was still besieged and had a hard time fending off the attacks. Bloody wounds appeared all over his body, creating a ghastly sight to behold. The 13 shaman guardians were also very strong, especially when they joined forces. The darkness domain they laid out had a great impact on Mo Au and the others. Even if they laid out a sword array, they could only barely gain the upper hand and couldn't cause any fatal damage to the 13 shaman guardians and Cinquo. "Break out of the encirclement!" Singli shouted as he struggled to resist. He gritted his teeth and a resolute look flashed in his eyes. As he took out the 2 black metal balls, his figure instantly retreated and pulled away from Singluan and the 5 guardian elders. Then he shouted fiercely, "Singluan, you forced me to do this. We came here to save you, but we didn't expect that you would kill us instead. So let's die together. Cinquo, being the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan, is better than you." Singluan's pupils shrunk when he saw the objects in Singli's hand. A horrified look flashed in his eyes as he exclaimed, "Are you crazy, Singli, old man? The Black God Thunder? How dare you use it? Do you also want your soul to perish and never be reincarnated?" A chilling light flashed in Singli's eyes as he fiercely said, "You forced me to do this. Since I'm not as good as you, then I can only drag you to hell with me. However, if you retreat now, I won't have to risk everything in one throw." This, Singluan furrowed his brows and stopped the 5 guardian elders. Then he turned to look at Tan Xiu. "What exactly is the Black God Thunder?" asked Tan Xiu indifferently. Singluan explained, "The Dark God Thunder is a terrifying thing that our Dark Shaman clan's ancestors have spent a great deal of effort to develop. Even a single Dark God Thunder will raise everything within a radius of several hundred meters to the ground. If 2 Dark God Thunder are detonated at the same time, the power will increase several times and everything within a radius of a kilometer will be blown to ashes. Apart from that, it also had 2 other terrifying effects. The first was that it contained a lethal poison. Even if one was able to resist the explosion of the divine black lightning with their physical body, they would still be poisoned to death. The second was that it could target a human soul. The wizard fire it ignited would burn the soul, and once it died, it would be the same as truly disappearing. It's somewhat similar to our Dark Shaman clan's Forbidden Darkness technique. How vicious! Tan Xiu's mind jolted as he looked at the 2 divine black thunder in Xing Li's hands with some fear. After a moment of silence, he asked in a low voice, "Are there a lot of divine black lightning in your clan?" "It's extremely difficult to refine the divine black thunder." Singluan shook his head and forced a smile. "Countless clansmen of our clan have been refining it for generations, yet we can't make more than 20 of them. Furthermore, as far as I know, 8 of them have been used. That means my clan only has 12 divine black thunder at most. These divine black thunder are usually controlled by my father and sealed in our clan's treasury. I didn't expect that Xingli would have 2 of them. Your father allows your clansmen to have divine black thunder? Asked Tan Xiu. This thing is a fatal threat to your father. Xingluan's eyes lit up and he said in a deep voice, "That's a good question, Mr. Tang. Every generation of the patriarch of our clans strictly forbids our clansmen from possessing divine black thunder. Otherwise, they will be punished as a traitor. Therefore, no one would dare to keep divine black thunder for themselves unless they have evil intentions. But now, it seems that Xingli has some evil intentions." Xingli's complexion instantly turned pale. He did hide the fact that he had 2 divine black thunder from his patriarch, Xingchuo. He even fantasized that one day he would get a heaven-sent opportunity to use these 2 divine black thunder on his patriarch. At that time, as long as Xingchuo was killed, he would become the most powerful clansman in the Dark Shaman clan. Coupled with his extremely high seniority, it was very likely that he would become the patriarch of the clan. He once secretly vowed that he would never take out the divine black thunder unless it was a life and death crisis. Now, he was facing such a crisis, so he had no choice but to take out the divine black thunder to save his life. "I'm afraid I can't go back to the Dark Shaman clan anymore. Even if I can survive, the patriarch won't let me off once I take out the divine black thunder. Forget it. I'll think about the future later. I'll get through the current crisis first. I'm not old yet and I still have decades of life left. I'm more likely to break through to a higher realm in the future and gain decades of life." Xingli was deeply aware that it was better to live a bad life than to die a good death. Despite the murderous look on his face, he was still worried that Tan Xiu didn't know how powerful the divine black thunder was and was determined to kill him. Tan Xiu looked at Xingli. With countless thoughts churning inside his mind, he indifferently said, "You're Xingli, right? The second strongest of the Dark Shaman clan?" "That's right." "It's me," said Xingli in a deep voice. Tan Xiu took out a cigarette, lit it, and took 2 puffs. Then he slowly said, "In fact, the moment you took out the divine black thunder, it proved that you violated the order of the Dark Shaman clan's patriarch and the ancestral rule of your clan. It can even be said that you violated the taboo of your clan. Those who harbor evil intentions are bound to have a different heart. Once these words appear in the mind of your clan's patriarch, I'm afraid you'll pay a heavy price even if he doesn't kill you." "What exactly do you want to say?" asked Xingli in a deep voice. "What I want to say is very simple. There's no place for you in the Dark Shaman clan anymore," said Tan Xiu. "You'll soon be expelled from the clan. So, do you think it's worth it to tear all pretense of cordiality with us for an irrelevant person?" A cold glint flashed in Xingli's eyes as he asked in a deep voice, "You mean, you want me to give up on saving Xingguo? You'll let me go as long as I don't help him?" "That's right," replied Tan Xiu without hesitation. "We won't bother to kill you as long as you don't hinder us. You should have been there from the beginning to the end of tonight's matter. I'm sure you also know what happened between Xingluan and Xingguo. Therefore, Xingluan's purpose is very simple. He wants to kill Xingguo and become the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan. You can leave at any time if you don't block our way." Xingli's expression changed a few times. After being silent for more than 10 seconds, he finally nodded with difficulty and said, "I promise you that I won't care about Xingguo's life. But you have to promise me one condition." "You're not qualified to talk terms with us," said Tan Xiu. "I can tell you that you'll die even if you use these 2 Dark God Thunderbolts if I want to kill you. It's just that the way I kill you will be different from directly killing you now. My condition is very simple. After Xingluan becomes the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan, he must not send any of his clan's members to hunt me down. I can promise him that I'll do 3 things for him if he needs me in the future." Tan Xiu stared blankly for a moment before he couldn't help laughing. A look of ecstasy appeared on Xingluan's face as he replied in a deep voice, "I promise you." Xingli secretly felt relieved inwardly. He then turned to look at the black mist not far away and hesitated before asking, "Mr. Tang, I want to know the outcome of the 13 Shaman Guardians." "Those who submit to me will prosper, and those who oppose me will perish," said Tan Xiu coldly. A wise man submits to circumstances. We naturally won't kill them if they give up resisting and no longer risk their lives for Singuo. After all, they are also the elites of the Dark Shaman clan. Singluan will need their assistance when he becomes the patriarch of the clan in the future. That's right. The 13 Shaman Guardians are the elites of our Dark Shaman clan, said Singluan aloud. Every generation of Shaman Guardians is only loyal to the patriarch. I'll definitely put them in an important position when I become the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan. I'll train them even harder than my father. I've told you that the Dark Shaman clan has been silent for too long and we need to reform and go all out to make progress. Only when the overall power of the clan increases and the cultivation of our clansmen skyrockets can we get more cultivation resources and have a higher status and power. I believe that one day in the future, our Dark Shaman clan will be stronger than the Celestial Wizard clan in Poland. The murderous aura of the 13 Shaman Guardians weakened a bit inside the domain of darkness shrouded by the black mist. They exchanged glances and commented on Singluan's words through special means. They were the Shaman Guardians. They were the most loyal supporters of the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan and also possessed great strength. They simply didn't care about the internal strife within the clan. Had it not been for the order of the patriarch, Singchuo, they wouldn't have spared a glance even if Singluan and Singuo were to perish together. But now, Singli, who led them, had compromised, leaving them in a dilemma for a while. Singuo, who was covered in scars, was keenly aware of the abnormality of the 13 Shaman Guardians. His heart felt as if it had fallen into an ice cave, and a chill of fear nearly froze him. Shaman Guardians, all of you are my father's trusted subordinates and the most elite warriors of the Dark Shaman clan. My father ordered you to rescue me. Do you want to disobey his order? Singluan is not yet the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan. Immediately, the 13 Shaman Guardians looked firm and resolute. They knew that Singuo was right. Singluan was not yet the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan, and they were ordered by the patriarch to rescue him. Something was amiss. Suddenly, the 13 Shaman Guardians' leader looked a bit strange. He quickly communicated with the other Shaman Guardians using a special means and came to a decision in just half a minute. "We quit!" shouted the leader of the 13 Shaman Guardians in a deep voice. Singuo's expression drastically changed. He instantly looked at the 13 Shaman Guardians with vigilance and shouted, "Do you really want to betray the clan? Betray the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan? He ordered you to..." Chapter 966. "Shut the hell up," said the leader of the 13 Shaman Guardians coldly. "The patriarch ordered us to come here to save Singluan, not you. The winner is king and the loser is a bandit. You're the loser in the clan's power struggle, so we have the right to abandon you. Singluan, can we leave now?" "Yes, you can." Singluan laughed with a pleasantly surprised face. "What I said before is still valid. I'll definitely treat you well as long as I become the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan. I'll even lead you to develop our clan." A smile outlined on the corner of Tanshio's mouth as he said in a deep voice, "Remove the sword array and let them go." After a while, as the black mist gradually dissipated, the 13 Shaman Guardians left with indifference and didn't waste any words. At the same time, Singuo also instantly dashed to the distance. Even though Xue Sha and He Xiong were blocking his way, he still resolutely tried to kill his way out. "You're just a cornered beast. Futile effort." Tan Xiao indifferently watched Singuo being blocked by Xue Sha and He Xiong without the slightest sympathy in his eyes. What the leader of the 13 Shaman Guardians just said was right. The winner is king and the loser is a bandit. Since he led a large number of his men to kill Singluan, then he must be prepared to fail and be killed. This world, the law of survival was extremely cruel. A few kilometers away, on the tens of meters high water tower, Zhuo Dequan looked at Singuo with a bit of sympathy in his eyes. He secretly shook his head and sighed. Who would have thought that such a powerful figure would end up in such a miserable state? Things are always changing, and I suddenly feel that being an ordinary person is pretty good. "You're right, boss," said a middle-aged man next to him with a face full of approval. "Those who kill will always be killed." Previously, Sinquo had led so many powerful subordinates to kill others, but the tables had turned and he had fallen into a trap meticulously designed by others. I'm now sure that Mr. Tang is the one who laid this trap. His victory is not just a single one, so it can be said that he killed 2 birds with 1 stone. Zhuo Dequan stared blankly and asked with a confused face, "Killing 2 birds with 1 stone? What do you mean?" The middle-aged man helplessly said, "Boss, our coconut plantation has been destroyed like this. Don't you think that he's killing 2 birds with 1 stone?" Cough cough. Zhuo Dequan awkwardly raised his hand and touched the bridge of his nose, not saying a word. Suddenly, the expression of another middle-aged man standing behind Zhuo Dequan slightly shifted and he said with a strange expression, "I don't think this matter is that simple, boss. What we've seen before should only be the first half of the show. I'm afraid the subsequent content will be even more exciting." Zhuo Dequan forced a wry smile and said, "Sinquo has already become a loner, so how can there be any good show in the future? Sigh, now I can only pray that they can leave as soon as possible. Otherwise, if they discover the gold stored under the ruins, I'm afraid I'll suffer a great loss." The middle-aged man behind him said, "Boss, look to the right, the road next to the river." Zhuo Dequan stared blankly and immediately looked to the right. In a flash, a surprised look appeared on his face and he muttered, "Someone else is coming? Could it be that this matter is not over yet?" The middle-aged man said, "I'm afraid there's no way to end it for the time being, boss. Look, those cars have already stopped. Oh my God! Their speed is too fast. It's like they're flying faster than ghosts. I can only catch their afterimages. At this speed, it'll only take them half a minute at most to reach our coconut plantation." Inside the coconut plantation, Sinquo had already used his trump card, but he couldn't do anything to Xue Xia and He Xiong. The sword array formed by the 2 immortal swords suppressed him, constantly causing bloody wounds to appear on his body. In just a minute or so, Sinquo had turned into a bloody man as though he had just crawled out of a river of blood. He would never be able to hold on for another minute if things were to go on like this. Xue Xia and He Xiong would definitely kill him. "Who's there?" Suddenly, Tan Xiu's expression slightly changed. He instantly unleashed his divine sword and his figure soared into the sky. He fiercely slashed out a tens of meters long sword light toward the ruins behind him. "Interesting." A hoarse and aged voice came from behind the ruins. A string of pitch-black Buddhist beads rose up and instantly expanded dozens of times, blocking Tan Xiu's sword light. However, a few crackling sounds were heard as several beads on the string of Buddhist beads suddenly exploded and turned into powder. Bush, 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 bush. 8 ghostly figures instantly appeared in front of Xue Xia and He Xiong. Along with the flurry of darts that filled the sky, the 2 men were forced to retreat tens of meters. They staggered to retrieve their immortal swords and then appeared at Tan Xiu's side. Sinquo, who was besieged by them, had his arms wrapped by 2 pitch-black chains and was then pulled to the front of 2 handsome Caucasian men in black tuxedos. "You look very miserable, young Master Sinquo." The monk, who wore a kasaya and held a golden Buddhist staff, spoke with a faint smile on his face. The string of Buddhist beads that blocked Tan Xiu's sword also flew back to his hand. He was very old and looked like he was in his twilight years. His body was a bit hunched, but his faintly discernible aura made Tan Xiu secretly dread him. Upon seeing these people, a strong desire to survive suddenly appeared in Sinquo's desperate eyes. He hurriedly called out, "Death Dhyana Buddhist Master, Vajra Giant, I'll agree to your previous conditions and join the Stygian Club if you're willing to save my life. If you can help me kill Singluan, Tan Xiu, and everyone else in front of me, I'll take the entire Dark Shaman clan and become your vassal clan when I become the patriarch." Tens of meters away, Tan Xiu vigilantly glanced at the 8 people who just appeared. Their appearances were very different from ordinary people. Death Dhyana Buddhist Master, for example, was as thin as a skeleton. Coupled with his hunched back and old age, he looked even more terrifying than a wizard. Next to Death Dhyana Buddhist Master stood a 2.4-meter tall iron-towering man. This iron-towering man had bronze skin and thick iron chains coiled around his body. He looked like a prehistoric beast, exuding an enormous aura. Tang Xiu originally thought that Moo was a tall and burly man, but compared to this tower-like giant in front of him, he was simply dwarfed and not worth mentioning. The other 6, aside from the 2 handsome Caucasian men who looked like vampires, there was also a frail woman with white hair and a youthful complexion, a burly man in a long dress with heavy makeup on his face that exuded a bit of bewitching aura, a long-haired young man with a cross on his back in strange clothes, and a dark-skinned woman with round iron rings on her nostrils, ears, and eyebrows. There was no exception. The 8 of them were not ordinary people, and each of them was likely very strong. Deaf Diana Buddhist Master still wore a faint smile on his face as he circled around Xingguo a few times. Then, he sighed and said, "We invited you with great hospitality, but you refused in every possible way. Now that you're facing a great disaster, you want to borrow our power. How can there be such a good thing in this world, young Master Xingguo?" "I'm willing to join you as the Dark Shaman clan's patriarch," said Xingguo hurriedly. "I'll lead the entire clan to serve you in the future. Isn't that enough?" Deaf Diana Buddhist Master raised his hand and pinched the beads on the string of Buddha beads with his thumb. Then, he said with a faint smile, "It's enough. Of course it's enough. However, we've seen too many people who burn bridges after crossing the river. You'll have to pay a price if you want us to trust you completely." "What price?" asked Xingguo in a deep voice with a slightly changed expression. Deaf Diana Buddhist Master took out a black porcelain bottle from his sleeve and threw it to Xingguo. "This is the Deaf Diana pill I've developed. It can be said to be extremely toxic. We'll help you if you dare to take it. We can even help you become the Dark Shaman clan's patriarch." Deaf Diana pill? Fear filled Xingguo's eyes. He knew that Deaf Diana Buddhist Master's way of controlling people's life and death was to make them take the Deaf Diana pill. If they obeyed his orders, they would get the antidote every 6 months to ensure their safety for the time being. But if they dared to go against his will, not only would they not get the antidote, but they would also be tortured by the poison and die after a long time. Vicious. Cruel. He simply couldn't imagine what awaited him once he took the Deaf Diana pill. Deaf Diana Buddhist Master's face turned cold and he indifferently said, "What? You don't dare?" Xingguo turned his head to look at Tan Xiu and then at Xingluan. Finally, he glanced at the enemies in front of him and gritted his teeth. "I'm going to die. I can't save my life no matter how unwilling I am. Now, give me a chance. I'll take this Deaf Diana pill. It's better to live than to die. I can make my enemies pay the cruelest price as long as I'm still alive." Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and sneered. "Are you sure they can save you, Xingguo?" Xingguo looked at Tan Xiu again and replied in a heavy tone, "I'm sure. Of course I'm sure. The Stygian Club's 8 top assassins are absolutely terrifying figures standing at the pinnacle of the Stygian Club. If they can't save me, I'm afraid you can dominate the world. Just you wait, Tan Xiu. One day, not only will I kill you, but I'll also brutally ravage all your relatives and friends to death. I'll also ruthlessly slaughter all your friends and everyone you care about. I'll make sure that they'll never be able to reincarnate." In a flash, killing intent surged inside Tan Xiu's heart. His friends and family were his reverse scale. Anyone who dared to touch them must die. Not only that, he must make sure that they were killed cleanly and not even given the chance to be reincarnated. "Xingguo, you only need to die to free yourself. But now, I'm going to make you disappear from this world completely." "The Stygian Club? I've killed a lot of people from the Stygian Club, so I don't mind killing 8 more. Chapter 967. Deaf Diana Buddhist Master's eyes were deep and abstruse. After taking a few steps forward, he burst into laughter and said, "The Stygian Club has too many people to count. However, those people are just ants in my eyes, so it's not surprising that you can kill some of them. But don't talk big today. Be careful, or you'll lose your tongue before we do anything." Tan Xiu sneered. "You fell into the demonic path and transformed your Buddhist power into a demonic art, yet you still dare to be arrogant and talk big? Old geezer, I also know some Buddhist magical powers. Since you want to die, then I'll use the means you're good at to kill you." Deaf Diana Buddhist Master's eyes narrowed and he looked at Tan Xiu with a solemn expression. He was indeed a Buddhist cultivator, and he was once an eminent monk. Unfortunately, he had too much hostility in his heart, along with a monstrous bloody obsession that eventually led him to turn Buddha into a demon. He betrayed the Buddhist and demonic Buddhism and fled China, eventually becoming the death god of the Stygian club. Just now, he had already determined that Tan Xiu was a cultivator after his fight with Tan Xiu. But how could such a young cultivator be proficient in his Buddhist magical powers? How could he possibly use the means of both Buddhist and demonic cultivation? You're just spouting nonsense. Let me have a taste of it. The monk's staff in Death Dhyana Buddhist master's hand fiercely tapped the ground, and a surging aura immediately spread in all directions. The broken trees, rotten leaves, bricks, and stones in the ruins around him were directly swept away by the airflow. The Vajra giant, whose whole body was wrapped in steel chains, suddenly stepped forward and stomped the ground with his right foot, causing dust to rise and the ground to slightly tremble. An iron hammer the size of a fist, after he threw it with all his might, rapidly expanded in size. In the blink of an eye, it had already expanded to 3 meters long, and the head of the hammer was incomparably huge. Death Dhyana Buddhist Master, I hate these arrogant and unruly guys the most, especially those who want to show off at such a young age. There's no need for you to do anything. Just let me smash them into meat paste. The Vajra giant raised his right hand and directly grabbed the giant hammer the moment it fell. Domineering. There was also the contempt shown by the King Kong giant. It was as if he didn't take Tan Xiu seriously at all, let alone the people in front of him. Tan Xiu frowned deeply. Although the aura of the Vajra giant in front of him was very strong, he didn't feel much threat from it. The biggest threat to him should be Death Dhyana Buddhist Master. Seeing that the giant was about to attack, he took a few steps back and said in a deep voice, "Tang Guang, play with him." Tang Guang, who was dressed in a white robe and looked elegant, flashed a smile, and his figure fluttered toward Vajra like floating clouds and flowing water. The immortal sword circled around him, and when it was about to reach Vajra, the immortal sword suddenly changed its course and blocked all the escape routes of Vajra. "Big guy, I hope you're not a silver spear with a wax head." Vajra's pupils shrank. They had just arrived here and didn't know much about Tang Guang's strength. However, Tang Guang's speed made him dread it. A series of sparks splashed in an instant as the hammer slammed down. His strength was great and his speed wasn't affected by the hammer's huge size. A series of hammer shadows swept crazily as he strode forward resolutely. "I hate gigolos the most. I'll take your surname if I don't kill you today." A ferocious look flashed on Vajra Giant's face as he dashed to the front of Tang Guang. His fist the size of a clay pot blasted toward Tang Guang's head. His arms were wrapped in black chains and his bulging muscles kept making cracking sounds. A disdainful look flashed in Tang Guang's eyes. Had it not been for the iron chains wrapped around Vajra Giant's arms, he might have had a headache trying to figure out a better way to deal with this opponent. But now, a brilliant idea had formed in his mind. Lightning. As he cast a spell, a lightning bolt instantly struck down in the dark night and accurately hit the iron chains wrapped around Vajra Giant's arms. What? Vajra Giant's body turned stiff. In that split second, a gap appeared in the hammer shadows he swung. The immortal sword that looked like a living creature pierced through the gap and sent a pillar of blood spraying to the sky as Vajra Giant's huge head was sent flying. Tang Guang retrieved the immortal sword and turned around to fly to Tan Xiu's front. With a calm look, he respectfully reported, "The enemy has been killed, Grand Master." Tan Xiu gave him a thumbs up and praised, "That's a very effective method. That guy was arrogant and conceited, yet you easily killed him. It seems he deserves this tribulation." Tens of meters away, Death Dhyana Buddhist Master's face was ashen as he looked at the headless corpse of Vajra Giant with blood spurting out from his neck. At this moment he felt like he had just eaten a dead mouse, and a nauseous feeling kept churning inside him. He knew Vajra Giant and naturally knew how strong he was. But because of the iron chains wrapped around his body, he fell into the enemy's trap and was easily killed. Behind him, the two white men who looked like vampires exchanged glances and took half a step back. Their weapons were chains. They were afraid that Tang Guang would use despicable tricks again to paralyze them with lightning and then seize the opportunity to kill them when they fought with Tang Guang. Interesting. I didn't expect that Vajra giant would be so unlucky to run into a cultivator who is proficient in lightning spells. How about I ask for some advice from you, mister? The petite woman with a child's face and white hair strode forward and looked at Tan Xiao with a faint smile. Tan Xiao was silent for a moment. Then he suddenly grinned and said, "It's really boring and a waste of time to fight one-on-one. It was getting late and the sun was about to rise. I think it's better for us to gang up on him." The woman's complexion changed and she disdainfully said, "Gang up on him? Do you want to bully us just because you have a lot of people?" Tan Xiao nodded and smilingly said, "That's right. I want to bully you just because I have a lot of people. But come and bite me if you don't like it." "You're courting death." A murderous aura surged in the eyes of the white-haired woman. She instantly took out a bone flute made of white bones from her loose robe. As she played the flute, the broken branches and rotten leaves in the surroundings were instantly blown away by an invisible wind. In just a few breaths, a tornado was formed. Ding, ding. Suddenly, the sound of a zither came from afar. Although the flute sound was loud and clear, it was suppressed by the zither sound in a moment. The tornado formed by the broken branches and rotten leaves was instantly broken and scattered to the ground. The pupils of the white-haired woman constricted. Suddenly, the tune changed drastically. It was like an unending flood that surged into the distance and rolled away. At this moment, everyone present looked toward the northwest because the sound of the zither came from that direction. A glint flashed in Tan Xiao's eyes. He didn't know who else was lurking around, but the other party was proficient in music and relied on music to help them defend against the enemy, which meant that the other party was a friend and not an enemy. "Thank you." Tan Xiao cupped his fists and raised them toward the northeast and said in a deep voice. In an instant, the sound of the zither became even more violent, like a flood of fierce beasts, abnormally overbearing. There was a bit of urgency in the sharp sound, like rolling stones and steel rubbing against each other. Other than Tan Xiao, everyone else felt their eardrums vibrate and their minds tremble. The woman who bore the brunt of the attack felt as if her heart was about to jump out of her chest. She shook her head desperately and stopped playing the flute. The woman felt something sweet in her throat and spat out a mouthful of blood. Her body swayed a few times and she staggered backward. Whoosh, caught off guard, an immortal sword suddenly appeared behind her out of thin air. Death Diana Buddhist Master and the other 5 people's complexion drastically changed, but they were too late to save her as her head was directly chopped off. Tangan, who appeared out of thin air, flashed for less than a second before she disappeared again without a trace. Tan Xiao looked toward the northwest and loudly said, "Why don't you show yourself since you've come? Tan Xiao is very grateful for your help." The zither sound. The last note dissipated and the world quieted down again, but no one appeared. When Tang Xiao's spiritual sense quickly spread to the northwest direction, he deeply furrowed his brows because the other party had actually left quietly. Perhaps the other party didn't go far, but the distance was beyond the range of his spiritual sense. "Go!" Tan Xiao glanced at Tang Guang. Tang Guang slightly nodded in response. His figure turned into an afterimage and instantly dashed toward the northwest. In just half a minute, he had already appeared a few kilometers away. What made him helpless was that the other party was nowhere to be seen. It was as if the other party was much faster than him and was already a few kilometers away. "I can't find him, boss." Tang Guang returned to Tan Xiao's front and shook his head with a wry smile. Tan Xiao nodded without a word. Since the other party didn't want to show up, he didn't want to force it. In fact, he had already inferred the other party's identity, but he couldn't be 100% sure since he hadn't seen the other party. Death Diana Buddhist Master shot a deep look at Tan Xiao and the others. Although killing intent was surging in his eyes, the thought of retreating sprouted inside his heart. 2 of the 8 of them had died in just a short time, which was too terrifying for him. It must be noted that each of them could stir up a storm in a region if they went out alone, yet they suffered such a huge loss here. It was really not worth it. "You're Tan Xiao? A Chinese?" asked Death Diana Buddhist Master in a deep voice. "That's right. My name is indeed Tan Xiao, and I'm also a Chinese cultivator," said Tan Xiao with a light smile. "But Are you asking me these questions because you want to retaliate against me later? He's our enemy, so I naturally have to figure out his identity. Death Diana Buddhist Master snorted coldly. Since you're our enemy, you'll definitely have to wait for our retaliation in the future. Tan Xiao, I'll remember you. Just say it if you want to run away. Don't play tricks with me. Tan Xiao chuckled. Chapter 968. Death Diana Buddhist Master didn't refute it. As Tan Xiao said, he already had the intention to retreat, so he didn't want to waste his breath. As he gestured for them to retreat, two handsome Caucasians who looked like vampires instantly grabbed Sinquo's shoulders and retreated with the others. Boundless Buddhist Dharma, demonic fire burns the shore. Death Diana Buddhist Master waved the staff in his hand, and a black flame ignited in an instant. Several black metal balls were smashed on the ground in front of him. Suddenly, a black mist began to spread in all directions when the metal balls exploded. When the black flame touched the black mist, it was as if it had touched kerosene. In a flash, the dark environment was illuminated as if it was daytime. However, the burning black flames also forcibly obstructed Tang Xiao and the others. Suddenly, Singluan took a step forward and grabbed a sharp dagger that instantly cut his finger. After forcing out a few drops of blood, he fiercely threw them at the black flame in front of him. At the same time, he used his other hand to cast a seal and silently recited an incantation. In just a few breaths, the few drops of blood he threw out turned into black flames out of thin air, looking almost no different from the sea of black flames in front of them. Mr. Tang, quickly take some people to chase them. I can use my family's forbidden technique to open a passage through this sea of fire. Singluan's complexion was a bit pale, but he still hurriedly shouted. Tan Xiao's eyes lit up and he shouted without hesitation, "Everyone, chase after them. We must kill all of them today. Else we'll have endless troubles in the future if they escape." Bush, bush, bush. Figures moved lightning fast and dashed into the sea of fire. The passage Singluan opened in the sea of black flames could be said to be perfect. In less than half a minute, almost everyone had passed through the passage and escaped from the range of the sea of black flames. Lotus Sword. Layers upon layers of immortal sword shadows were like a blooming lotus. Even in the dark night, they were still blooming like stars. Tang An's figure suddenly appeared in front of Death Diana Buddhist Master's group of 7 and forcibly blocked their escape route. The lotus-shaped sword shadow gave Death Diana Buddhist Master a vague illusion that if he rashly rushed into this sword light, his chance of survival would be slim. Death Diana Buddhist Master held the Buddhist staff in his hand, and a light shadow instantly shot out from the staff and bombarded the sword lotus. Although the layers of airflow became chaotic and the light shadow dissipated, 2 lightning-fast figures appeared in front of the sword lotus. The burly man, who wore a long dress and had heavy makeup on his face, exuded a bit of demonic aura. The muscles on his face kept trembling, and his ferocious face was filled with dense killing intent. As for the long-haired young man with the crusader on his back, the cross on his back had already floated up, emitting black smoke. Thousand Feather Needle. Punishment from Hell. The two of them joined forces and instantly launched a fierce attack. Tang An's figure twisted and instantly disappeared into the distance along with the airflow of the space. She instantly used the law of time, causing the surrounding space to seemingly freeze. The attacks of the burly man with demonic aura and the wicked-looking young man instantly became very slow. At this time, Tang An appeared a dozen meters away in front of the duo. Her black-gloved hands seemed to be weaving an invisible big net. The lines of the net were like cracks in the space, shrouding the duo. Space Force? Not far away, Death Diana Buddhist Master's eyes burst with a horrified look. His skeleton-like body suddenly dashed forward. When he was still more than 10 meters away from the big net, he fiercely struck the Buddhist staff in front of him. At the same time, the Buddhist beads in his hand that were missing a few beads were instantly thrown up. The moment the string of Buddhist beads soared 100 times, the rope broke, and the Buddhist beads exploded one after another. Kacha! The space turbulence became even more chaotic, but the huge net formed by the space cracks continued to collapse. In the end, just when it came in contact with the burly man and the demonic youth, it finally disappeared without a trace. Tang An's complexion slightly changed. She had always relied on the space and time forces to launch sneak attacks when she fought others in the past, and it was always successful. This time, she had to stop Death Diana Buddhist Master and the others. It was the first time she fought the enemy head-on, but her attack method was broken. 3,000 slashes. Intense killing intent burst out of Tang An's eyes. Her immortal sword stirred the wind and clouds and instantly formed a sword wall that slashed forward. Let's work together to block it. Death Diana Buddhist Master's complexion changed. The deadly crisis made him completely erupt at this moment. He crazily circulated the dark Buddhist force inside his body, causing his Buddhist staff to expand several times in an instant. He grabbed it and fiercely waved it in front of him. The wicked-looking young man manipulated the cross to constantly hover at high speed. A black stream of light seemingly turned into black ghosts that bared their fangs and brandished their claws at the oppressive sword wall. The burly man made an orchid gesture with his fingers, and black needles that looked sharp but produced harsh noises due to the fast friction in the air bloomed like pear blossoms in a rainstorm. Offense was the best defense. The trio joined forces and nearly used their strongest moves to instantly bombard the sword wall formed by the 3,000 slashes. Puff! Tang An's body trembled and her figure instantly disappeared from the spot. She spurted out a mouthful of blood that dyed the space where she was standing blood red. Death Diana Buddhist Master and the other two also had their bodies protected by the formation. The power of space made them feel extremely oppressed. Although they had successfully broken Tang An's attack, their bodies still trembled and were forced to retreat a dozen steps. Their arms that were holding their weapons were faintly numb. What a powerful thieving woman. It's no wonder she's like a child. Death Diana Buddhist Master tried his best to calm his churning blood and energy. He vigilantly observed the surroundings and slowly spoke. Behind the trio, the dark-skinned woman coldly said, "Death Diana Buddhist Master, let's not confront her head-on if we don't want to die here. She's too strong, so let's run." Just as her voice faded away, she and the two handsome vampire-like youths instantly dashed forward. Xingguo, who was being carried by the two handsome youths, didn't want to admit Tang An's strength. But he was perfectly aware that even the most powerful Death Diana Buddhist Master was not necessarily the match of this mysterious woman in a one-on-one fight. What he wanted the most now was to escape. Even if Death Diana Buddhist Master and the others were to die, he would be very satisfied as long as he could escape. Now, he could clearly see the situation. Even if he became stronger, developed better, and trained a large number of subordinates in the future, it would be very difficult for him to seek revenge from Tan Xiu. It was because Tan Xiu was very strong, and so were his men. Seeking revenge from him would undoubtedly be like striking a stone with an egg. However, Xingluan and his protector elders could all be killed. Even the Dark Shaman clan, which Xingluan would use in the future, could also be eliminated. There's more. Damn Xingli and the 13 Shaman Guardians. They succumbed to the enemy's threat and gave up on themselves. They must also die, and they must be tortured to death, enduring endless pain before they die. A cold glint flashed in Xingguo's eyes. He was grabbed by the two vampire-like youths, but a layer of faintly discernible black mist surged around his body to quickly heal his injuries. He would be able to heal most of his injuries if he was given 10 minutes. It wouldn't affect him much even if he had to fight again. A few kilometers away, on the tens of meters high water tower, Zhuo Dequan secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He turned to look at his men, who also looked relaxed and sighed. I never thought that there would be so many terrifying existences in this world. It's really fortunate that we've been able to go smoothly all these years and haven't provoked such terrifying existences. We must be more careful in the future. Don't easily make enemies with others, else I'm afraid that we'll be killed in a short time if we provoke such terrifying existences. A middle-aged man nodded without a word and forced a smile. You're right, boss. Compared to them, we're as weak as ants and lions. There's no comparison at all. If they wanted to kill us, it would be as easy as killing an ant. Zhuo Dequan's eyes flickered and he said in a deep voice, "We won't take the initiative to provoke others, but we must find ways to improve our strength. We didn't know that such terrifying existences existed in this world before, so we always thought that we were very powerful. But now we know that we're just frogs in the well and short-sighted. I have an idea, but I don't know if you think it's feasible or not." "What idea?" asked the middle-aged man, confused. "Since there are such terrifying existences in this world, it means that we can also become such powerhouses if we can find a way to become stronger," said Zhuo Dequan in a deep voice. "I may have offended Tanxiu before, but with Qing around and me apologizing and deliberately showing goodwill to him, I'm sure I can establish a little friendship with him. Do you think I can get a way to become stronger from him if I pay a big price?" In a flash, the eyes of several loyal subordinates of Zhuo Dequan lit up. It would be a great thing if their boss could really get a way to become stronger from Tanxiu. Such a good thing would make them smile even in their dreams. "We can give it a try, boss," said the middle-aged man excitedly. Zhuo Dequan raised his arm and stroked his chin. He nodded and said, "We can't afford to lose this opportunity, so I must seize it." "Boss." Suddenly, another middle-aged man interrupted Zhuo Dequan in a low voice. Zhuo Dequan furrowed his brows and asked, "What is it?" The middle-aged man pointed to another direction and said in a low voice, "Some people are coming. Also, judging from the number of vehicles, the number of people coming this time should be no less than 5. Chapter 969. Zhuo Dequan grabbed the binoculars and looked at the direction his men pointed. He was immediately shocked. He was already shocked to see so many people arriving here one after another. Now there were so many of them. Could it be that they also wanted to join the fight? Are they Tanxiu's men? Or 5's men? "Boss, look at that limousine in the middle. It seems to be Kanaja's car," said the middle-aged man. Zhuo Dequan stared blankly for a moment before an incredulous look appeared on his face. Then he said, "That's right. It's Kanaja's car. There's only one of this kind in Bangkok. But how did Kanaja come here? He's not qualified to join the fight just now given his ability." The middle-aged man said, "Could it be that Kanaja didn't come for those people? Instead, he came for us?" Zhuo Dequan deeply frowned and carefully pondered for 2 minutes. Then he shook his head and said, "It's unlikely. The money we owe Kanaja hasn't been paid yet, so he won't make things difficult for us before he gets the money. Besides, we don't have any grudges with Kanaja, so there's no reason for him to come to me at this time. If my guess is correct, he must have something to do with those people who just fought, and he should have nothing to do with Tanxiu." Asked the middle-aged man, confused. If Tanxiu and Kanaja had a deep friendship, he wouldn't have needed to hide here after sneaking into Bangkok, said Zhuo Dequan. Kanaja is the well-deserved leader of the underground forces in Bangkok. The place he arranged for me is probably more hidden and safer than this place. At the gate of the coconut plantation, when more than a dozen cars slowly came to a stop, Kanaja, who was in the limousine in the middle, opened the door and walked out. When he saw the scene in front of him, he was slightly stunned and his eyes revealed a look of disbelief. Heavens! This place was still fine when I came here yesterday. How did it become like this? This place was not attacked by a terrorist organization, right? But even if they were bombed, they wouldn't be in such a miserable state. A burly man in a black suit with a scar on the corner of his mouth cried out in alarm. His eyes looked as if he had seen a ghost. There was no need to mention how shocked he was. Kanaja furrowed his brows and asked in a deep voice, "You mean this place was fine yesterday, but it turned into this scene today?" "That's right." The big man nodded and said, "It was fine yesterday, but now it has turned into ruins." Kanaja's eyes flickered. He realized that the person who turned Zhuo Dequan's place into ruins should be the result of the battle between Tan Xiu and 5. He already knew that Tan Xiu was very strong and that 5 was a cultivator of the Dark Shaman clan. But now, it seemed that their strength had far exceeded his imagination. However, this place had been destroyed to such a state. What was the result of their battle? In the end, did Tan Xiu and Xingluan win? Or did 5 win? Swish, A figure flickered lightning fast and instantly appeared in front of Kanaja and the others. Black muzzles were aimed at the newcomer, but the other party didn't show the slightest fear and asked in a deep voice, "Who are you, Kanaja?" Kanaja raised his hand to stop his men. He strode forward and said, "I'm Kanaja. May I know who you are, mister?" The black-robed youth with a black staff in his hand said in a deep voice, "I'm young Master Singluan's man. Mr. Tang and our young master have taken some men to chase Sinquo and the other enemies. Mr. Tang asked me to stay and wait for you. He said that he wants to ask you for a favor." Chase and kill? Kanaja instantly realized that the battle between Tan Xiu and Sinquo was probably won by Tan Xiu. Therefore, a respectful expression appeared on his face as he asked with a smile, "May I know what Mr. Tang wants me to do?" Mr. Tang said that they fought with Sinquo's men here and turned this place into ruins. "It's really inexcusable," said the youth. "That's why I hope Mr. Kanaja can help me deal with the aftermath. Burn all the corpses here and rebuild this coconut plantation. As for Zuodequan, I hope Mr. Kanaja can explain it to him. Mr. Tang will pay for the reconstruction of the coconut plantation." Kanaja finally understood Tan Xiu's intention. The smile on his face turned thicker and he said in a clear voice, "Please tell Mr. Tang that I have some friendship with the owner of this coconut plantation, Zuodequan. He will naturally give me face. As for these corpses, I'll send someone to deal with them immediately. Also, leave the matter of rebuilding the coconut plantation to me. You don't need to pay for it, just consider it my congratulatory gift to Mr. Tang for his victory. I'll convey your words to Mr. Tang." The youth nodded. "Then, I'll have to trouble everyone. I still have to meet up with the others, so I'll take my leave first." Kanaja nodded and watched the young man leave quickly. The smile on his face grew thicker and thicker. 10 seconds later, he burst into laughter and said, "Good, very good. Let's get to work. Clean up all the corpses here. Don't leave any traces." Saying, he took out his mobile phone and dialed Zuodequan's number. A few kilometers away, on the tens of meters high water tower, Zuodequan was observing Kanaja through binoculars when his mobile suddenly rang in his pocket. A phone call? Kanaja is also calling now. Zuodequan took out his mobile from his pocket and looked at the caller ID. He immediately frowned and said in a deep voice, "It's really Kanaja. What's his purpose in calling me?" "Don't answer it at this time, boss," said the middle-aged man. Zuodequan pondered for a moment before he shook his head and said, "It's not good not to answer it. Besides, Kanaja doesn't know where we're hiding now, so it's better to figure out his purpose even if you answer it." After saying that, he directly pressed the answer button and smilingly said, "May I know what's the matter for calling me so early, Mr. Kanaja?" "I'm now outside your coconut plantation, Zuodequan," said Kanaja. "Come to see me at once if it's convenient for you." Zuodequan was silent for a while before he forced a smile and said, "You should know what happened there since you're outside my coconut plantation, Mr. Kanaja. It's like hell there now. I sensed it ahead of time and escaped with my men. You want me to go there now? Isn't this asking for my life?" "I don't know why Mr. Tang chose your place as the battlefield," said Kanaja coldly. "But I can tell you that I'm not here to find trouble with you. I was entrusted by Mr. Tang to help him deal with the aftermath. Had you not appeared in front of me, this coconut plantation would have been mine in the future." "Helping Tan Xiu?" Zuodequan's expression shifted and a look of disbelief appeared on his face. He couldn't figure out why Tan Xiu would follow his daughter to his place since he knew Kanaja and seemed to have a good friendship with him. Did he want to hide here? Hold on. A light suddenly flashed inside Zuodequan's mind and he instantly realized it. Kanaja was indeed the kingpin of Bangkok's underworld, but he had too many people under him and his men were naturally mixed with crooks and honest people. Tan Xiu was afraid that Kanaja's men would sell his whereabouts, so he came to me, an irrelevant person. Having figured it out, he secretly regretted refusing Tan Xiu before. After clearing his throat, he said, "Please wait for me for 10 minutes, Mr. Kanaja. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Frankly speaking, Mr. Tang and Tan Xiu have a good friendship with my daughter. Since he entrusted you to help, then I should also help you." An unhappy look flashed in Kanaja's eyes. He didn't expect that Tan Xiu actually had a good friendship with Zhuo Dequan's daughter. It seemed that he would have to change the way he befriended him in the future. 5 kilometers away, Tan Xiu finally arrived with a large team. Upon seeing the scene of Tang and coughing up blood, the killing intent in his eyes turned more intense. He even controlled the divine sword and flashed lightning fast toward the enemy. Set up the array. You must exterminate all of them. The divine sword transformed into thousands of sword images that stacked layer upon layer as they swept toward Death Dhyana Buddhist Master's group of 7. This time, Tan Xiu didn't hold back his power. His figure appeared 100 meters high in the air as he cast all kinds of divine powers and seals, causing flames to form all over the sky and shroud the area within several kilometers. Lightning bolts fell from the sky and constantly shuttled back and forth in the sea of fire. Puff, puff, puff. He took out 8 array discs from his interspatial ring and quickly threw them in 8 different directions. At the same time, he used the crossroads of the highway, the surrounding trees, streetlights, and the small artificial lake on the left side to arrange the 8 desolation array. Following the formation of ancient and complicated runes, lines of runes quickly intertwined, exuding faintly discernible energy fluctuations. In just a dozen seconds, Death Dhyana Buddhist Master and the others had yet to rush out of the sea of fire, but the runes had already been laid out. Golden Lion. As the 8 desolation array was activated and completely shrouded the surrounding space, Tan Xiu shouted in a deep voice. Jin Shi instantly appeared in front of Tan Xiu and respectfully said, "What's your order, boss?" "You've read a lot of ancient books I've read during the days you've been following me," said Tan Xiu. "You've even studied more than a dozen arrays I've written. Tell me, what's the name of this array?" Jin Shi stared blankly for a moment. Although he had studied a lot about arrays, he couldn't arrange one at all and rarely saw one in reality. Immediately after, he circled around the 8 desolation array a dozen times and spent a full 10 minutes. Then, he probingly asked, "This should be the 8 desolation array, right, boss? I've seen several array patterns and runes, and they're very similar. Great. You can recognize this array and enter it alone. You should be able to smoothly assassinate them, right?" Tan Xiu nodded. Again. Jin Shi nodded seriously. Chapter 970. Jin Shi had always been a cautious man. He would never boast about something he was not sure of. He had memorized all the contents of the array he had read before. Every position, every angle, he had secretly made countless arrangements in his mind. "Enter the array," Tan Xiu shouted in a deep voice. Jin Shi strode forward and appeared in the 8 desolation 6 harmonies array the next moment. When he saw the flaming fireballs shooting at him, his footsteps flashed and he appeared a few meters away the next moment. At the same time, his line of sight moved quickly and found the place he was looking for in just a second or two. Break. 4 fireballs appeared around him in an extremely short period of time, and the immortal sword hovering around him directly split the 4 fireballs apart. As he moved, all the fireballs that shot towards him were either dodged or broken apart by him, and then he appeared in the predetermined position. Suddenly, all the fireballs that shot towards him within the formation dissipated, and he stood in a safe position. At the same time, Death Dhyana Buddhist Master and the others who were trapped inside the 8 desolation 6 harmonies array were also dodging the attacks formed by the array. From time to time, there were lightning, torrential rain, hurricanes, and earth spikes. The attacks formed by countless changes in the environment had left them scarred and exhausted a huge amount of the power they cultivated. "We must find a way to break this array, else we'll be trapped inside," shouted the evil-looking youth who had a bloody wound on his face, controlling the pitch-black cross. He barely dodged the attack of a hurricane. Death Dhyana Buddhist Master had been observing the array. He was the one with the lightest injury among them, and his strength wasn't affected much. He could even lend a helping hand to his companions when he was dodging the attacks. However, he couldn't see through the mysteries of this array even after studying it for more than 10 minutes. "There's only one way left now," said Death Dhyana Buddhist Master in a deep voice. The evil-looking youth looked pleasantly surprised and hurriedly asked, "What's the solution, Death Dhyana Buddhist Master?" We're all injured. We can't hold on for long if we can break this array. I came up with the stupidest method, said Death Dhyana Buddhist Master in a deep voice. That's to break this array with force. We'll do everything we can to attack the same position in this array and strive to break this damn array in one blow. All right. Agreed. The others nodded and quickly approached Death Dhyana Buddhist Master. Death Dhyana Buddhist Master pointed to a spot and said in a deep voice, I have a feeling that that's the weakest spot in the entire array, but it's also the place with the most attacks. So, if we want to break the formation, we have to destroy all the attacks in that direction, and we have to increase the intensity of our attacks to create an opening there. As long as we succeed, this array formation will be broken. Do it! With a loud shout from Death Dhyana Buddhist Master, everyone used all their strength to attack in the direction they had locked onto. Fireballs mixed with lightning bolts were very powerful, but under everyone's attack, all the fireballs and lightning bolts were destroyed. The remaining force bombarded a layer of energy shield. As layers of ripples appeared on the energy shield, a hair-thin crack appeared. However, the moment the shockwave from the attack dissipated, the crack automatically healed, and the vibrating ripples also disappeared without a trace. The power of the array's attack is weakening. The evil-looking young man's eyes were filled with disappointment, but in an instant he keenly noticed a problem and cried out in surprise. Death Dhyana Buddhist Master grinned and loudly said, That's right. We may not have broken this array, but we did cause some damage to it, causing its attack power to weaken. If we continue to attack, I believe that this formation will be overwhelmed sooner or later, and we will break it by force. The burly man yelled, Then continue to attack. Before he could finish speaking, a celestial sword that was hidden in the shadows like a venomous snake silently pierced through his heart. As the sword light moved, his body was torn into pieces, and at the moment he exploded, it formed a tragic scene of flesh and blood flying everywhere. A bloodthirsty glint flashed in Jinshur's eyes as soon as he appeared. He immediately retreated half a step and disappeared into thin air after hitting his target. What's going on? The complexion of Death Dhyana Buddhist Master and the others drastically changed. They didn't see the sneak attack and only felt a sharp energy fluctuation. They hurriedly turned their heads and saw the burly man's body explode. Such a strange situation made their complexion turn extremely unsightly, and fear grew in their eyes. The evil-looking youth subconsciously moved closer to Death Dhyana Buddhist Master while vigilantly observing the surroundings. He didn't even block the fireballs and lightning bolts coming from all directions. However, the black woman suddenly took off the cloak on her body. The moment she waved her arm, the black cloak formed a mist-like air wall, blocking all the fireballs and lightning bolts that shot towards them. Half a minute. The dark cloak can only block for half a minute at most. Everyone, hurry up and attack the same spot. Otherwise, the dark cloak will be destroyed and we'll have to guard against the surrounding attacks, shouted the black woman. Death Dhyana Buddhist Master was also aware of the crisis at the moment. He didn't hesitate to raise his staff and fiercely smashed it forward. Jinshur, who was hiding in the dark, originally planned to continue his sneak attack. But when he saw the black woman unleashing the dark cloak, he suddenly felt a bit dejected and hurriedly sent a voice transmission to Tanshio. Boss, the enemy has a defensive magic tool, so I can't continue my sneak attack for the time being. Also, they're attacking a certain point of the array. If they keep attacking like this, the array will be broken soon. A cold light flashed in Tanshio's eyes as he stood outside the array. His figure instantly entered the 8 Desolations 6 Harmonies array. His footsteps were very peculiar and the position he stepped on was also very special. His seemingly dancing figure didn't suffer any attack from the array and appeared near Death Dhyana Buddhist Master and the others. Interesting. Tanshio once again unleashed the divine sword. Along with the eruption of a terrifying aura, the divine sword instantly expanded 100 times and turned into a terrifying giant sword nearly 100 meters long. He then fiercely slashed the dark cloak. Boom! The dark cloak was smashed to pieces, and Jinshur's figure instantly appeared behind the black woman. As the immortal sword swept across, The black woman's face turned pale and her head was directly chopped off. Except for Death Diana Buddhist Master, the rest were hit by the aftermath of the divine sword attack and fled in all directions. Tenebrous Domain. Cinquo had already recovered his strength. Although he still had some injuries on his body, they weren't very serious. Seeing that Death Diana Buddhist Master and the others had suffered such a big loss, his heart was in his throat. Whether he could escape alive or not, he needed to rely on Death Diana Buddhist Master and the others. Therefore, he brazenly attacked at this time and shrouded the surrounding tens of meters in black mist. His domain allowed him to observe everything inside and also prevent the enemy's sneak attack. Break. Death Diana Buddhist Master also pounced toward the weakest point of the array. As his staff fiercely bombarded that spot, more than a dozen cracks appeared on the energy shield. At this moment, he suddenly threw the staff in his hand, stirred and tore those cracks open. Run! Death Diana Buddhist Master didn't have the time to help the others. He shouted and quickly rushed out of the gap. Run! Run! The others seemed to see the hope of escaping and rushed toward the gap. Cinquo, who had just unleashed his tenebrous domain, followed closely behind Death Diana Buddhist Master. Tan Xiu's face turned cold and he fiercely said, "You want to escape? Did I give you permission?" The divine sword turned into countless sword beams that blotted out the sky and shot toward the gap. In the blink of an eye, the two vampire-like men who only cared about escaping were pierced by layers of sword beams and their corpses fell outside the gap. The array had been broken. After Tan Xiu and Jin Shi's figures appeared next to the two corpses, Death Diana Buddhist Master, Cinquo, and the sinister youth had already fled to the distance. Tang Guang, Tang and Death Diana Buddhist Master and Cinquo must die. They must stay here no matter the price. Tan Xiu chased after them lightning fast and shouted at the same time. Understood. Tang Guang was extremely fast, several times faster than Jin Shi. He instantly dashed past Jin Shi and chased after the trio with Tan Xiu. In front of Tan Xiu and Tang Guang, layers of ripples constantly appeared in the air and a faintly discernible aura was like a fish swimming in the sea, but its speed was a bit faster. A strange glint flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes and he secretly thought, in the entire everlasting feast hall, aside from Gu Yan and Ji Qingmu, Tang and speed is probably the fastest. Even though I'm at the late stage of Golden Core and am proficient in countless escape arts, I'm still a bit inferior compared to Tang and who can use space. Cinquo, we suffered such a big loss to save you, so it's your turn to repay us now. Stay here and stop them. You'll be our brother as long as you don't die this time. Death Diana Buddhist Master's heart was beating very fast. He could also vaguely sense a faint fluctuation in the air that was rapidly approaching them, so he guessed that it was the mysterious female assassin from before. Cinquo's expression drastically changed. He didn't expect that Death Diana Buddhist Master would make such a request at this time. He knew very well that he would die today if he stayed to stop Tan Xiu and the others. I can't die. Even if I have to offend Death Diana Buddhist Master and need his help to detoxify the poison in half a year, I can't stay here to die. As long as I can escape, I'll be able to find a place to hide. Of course, I can even escape back to the Dark Shaman clan if I have to. I believe that my father won't watch me get killed by Tan Xiu and Singluan. Chapter 971. Cinquo's intelligence was very high, and the moment he was in a life-and-death crisis, he would erupt with even greater power. Death Diana Buddhist Master's betrayal made him furious, but he didn't lose his mind. His killing intent surged as he took out a roll of golden threads from his sleeve. Entangle! The golden threads unfolded and wrapped around Death Diana Buddhist Master's ankles at lightning speed. After wrapping around his ankles in an instant, Cinquo pulled his arm and flung Death Diana Buddhist Master backward as his expression changed drastically and his body fell to the ground. Almost in an instant, he had overtaken Death Diana Buddhist Master's previous position, and his sprinting speed was even faster. Cinquo, you deserve to die. Death Diana Buddhist Master was furious, and his heart was filled with endless remorse. He had come all the way here with his companions because he saw that Cinquo was a talent. He wanted to persuade Xingguo to join them. However, who would have thought that he'd have to sacrifice the lives of 6 of his companions to save Xingguo's life? Yet, at this very moment, Xingguo had actually attacked him again. Tan Xiu's lightning-fast figure appeared several tens of meters away from Death Dhyana Buddhist Master. As the divine sword slashed down, Death Dhyana Buddhist Master hastily dodged, but an immortal sword appeared out of thin air at his neck. Although the strike failed to tear his windpipe, it still tore open a bloody wound on his neck. Tang Yan was injured at the moment, but she didn't care about it. Because Tan Xiu had issued a death order, he absolutely could not let the Death Dhyana Buddhist Master escape, so he once again entangled the Death Dhyana Buddhist Master like a maggot attached to a bone. Even if every move couldn't destroy the world, it could still erupt with great power, making the Death Dhyana Buddhist Master unable to fend for himself. Tan Xiu, there is no enmity between us. You don't have to force me, do you? Full of grievances, Death Dhyana Buddhist Master roared furiously while dodging Tang and storm-like attacks. He had experienced countless battles in his life, but he had never felt so vexed and frightened as he was right now. Tan Xiu hovered in the air and said in a heavy voice, "Death Dhyana Buddhist Master, there was no deep hatred between us before, but now there is. It was you who meddled in other people's business, that's why you ended up like this. We have to get rid of Xingguo's wild ambition. And you haven't forgotten what you said before, have you? I don't want to be remembered, so I can only be at ease if you die. Is there really no room for maneuver?" Death Dhyana Buddhist Master snapped. "Don't force me, or I'll use a forbidden technique. Even if I die, I'll drag you down with me. As long as you're willing to let me go, you don't have to do anything. I'll definitely kill that damned Xingguo. Also, I was just pretending to be brave before. How would I dare to really take revenge on you? Let me go, and we'll mind our own business. Divine sword, sacrifice the heavens." Tan Xiu couldn't be bothered to talk to him anymore. As the divine sword slashed down, it forcefully blocked his escape route. Tang Yan's unpredictable attacks put Death Dhyana Buddhist Master in a serious crisis. A crazed look emerged in Death Dhyana Buddhist Master's eyes. He clenched his teeth and the Buddhist staff in his hands suddenly split into two. A half-foot-long multi-legged centipede shot out from it and arrived in front of Tang and in the blink of an eye. Death Dhyana Buddhist Master, on the other hand, was already prepared to be severely injured by Tang Yan. He swept the two halves of his Buddhist staff horizontally to seal off Tang Yan's escape routes. In mid-air, Tan Xiu's complexion drastically changed. His figure suddenly swooped down while his arms kept forming a circle, guiding the divine swords to rain down on Death Dhyana Buddhist Master. Besieging the weak to rescue the weak was the only thing he could do at the moment. Unless Death Dhyana Buddhist Master took the initiative to give up the attack, he wouldn't have enough time to rescue Tang and Golden Cicada shedding its carapace. Death Dhyana Buddhist Master roared. His kasaya fluttered to the side in a flash and the two halves of his Buddhist staff pierced Tang and shoulders in just a split second. The multi-legged centipede that had already arrived in front of Tang and landed on her neck and bit it. Puff! The rain of swords pierced Death Dhyana Buddhist Master's body, but his figure vanished into thin air the moment he crazily spurted out blood. When his figure flashed 4 or 5 meters away, he staggered and fell to the ground. Teleportation? Tan Xiu was secretly surprised, but he immediately rejected the idea. It was absolutely impossible to learn the teleportation technique unless one's cultivation had broken through to the nascent soul stage. Death Dhyana Buddhist Master's strength was at most comparable to a middle-stage gold core cultivator, so it was impossible for him to perform teleportation. Moreover, teleportation usually covered a very long distance, but he only moved 4 or 5 meters away, indicating that he was just using some kind of magical footwork. The sword shadows flashed like the wind wherever the sword pointed. Death Dhyana Buddhist Master's body violently trembled a few times. He lowered his head to look at his chest, and a look of despair suddenly appeared on his face because there was a fist-sized hole in his heart. Moreover, there were also bloody wounds on his shoulders and legs. Tan Xiu, Death Dhyana Buddhist Master shot a resentful look at Tan Xiu. Although his vitality was rapidly fading, he still soared into the sky as though he wanted to exhaust the last trace of power in his body to kill Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu's killing intent was equally intense. He still couldn't figure out Tang An's situation, so he instantly threw 2 exploding talismans at the incoming Death Dhyana Buddhist master. Boom! Death Dhyana Buddhist master's body violently trembled. A look of despair appeared on his face as his neck was severed from the back by the divine sword. At this moment, a red light suddenly bloomed on the divine sword and a suction force was released, sucking the blood into the sword. At this moment, Tan Xiu could clearly feel that the power exuded by the divine sword had increased a lot compared to before. Moreover, his perception of the divine sword had also become stronger. After a few flashes, Tan Xiu appeared at Tang An's side. He saw that Tang An had taken out a dagger and killed the centipede. He reached out to support her, grabbed her wrist, and put his fingers on her pulse. Highly toxic? Tan Xiu's complexion slightly changed. He took out a few silver needles from his interspatial ring and instantly sealed several major acupoints on Tang An's neck. At the same time, his other hand quickly tore the black robe on Tang An's body. When her bare shoulders appeared in front of Tan Xiu had already inserted the last silver needle into the acupoints. He then pinched Tang An's shoulders with both hands and his fingernails instantly pierced into her flesh. Grand Master! Tang An was startled and a bit of panic could be seen in her eyes. Don't talk and don't circulate your energy, said Tan Xiu in a deep voice. That centipede's venom is very strong. The poison has already reached your shoulders in just a few seconds. I must expel it from your body. Tang An's restless heart finally calmed down after hearing it. She then nodded with a hint of shyness. Extract her blood and seal her veins. Tan Xiu pulled out his fingernails. As his hands slowly left Tang An's shoulders, blood was sucked out from his palms. The blood that was sucked out was black and carried a hint of stench. But after a few seconds, it turned red. Immediately after, Tan Xiu shook off the blood and reached out to press the back of Tang An's neck. As his fingers slid on her neck, several silver needles shot out and quietly floated around. Blood splashed out from the spots where the silver needles were pulled out. Tan Xiu's fingers kept moving on Tang An's neck, so the bleeding process was much slower this time. Huff! A few minutes later, Tan Xiu released Tang An and looked at the dozens of people around him, shouting in a deep voice, "What the hell are you all doing here? Go and kill Xingguo." Tang Guang has gone after Xingguo, boss, said Jin Shi in a low voice. We're too slow. If we catch up with him, you must chase him even if you're slow, said Tan Xiu in a deep voice. Remember, don't let him escape even if you have to block the road ahead. He's bound to become a big trouble in the future if we don't get rid of him. Upon hearing that, Jin Shi and the others immediately chased after Xingguo and the sinister youth. Even Xingluan and his men also chased after them. As a matter of fact, Xingluan was more eager for Xingguo's death than Tan Xiu. Only with Xingguo's death would he be able to sit on the Dark Shaman clan's patriarch seat without any worries in the future. Tan Xiu took out a holy healing pill from his interspatial ring and stuffed it into Tang An's mouth. Then he said in a low voice, I've removed the toxins from your body and you're fine for the time being. But your injuries are very serious, so you must recuperate as soon as possible. I'll be your protector. Please go after Xingguo, Grand Master. Tang An shook her head. I can do it myself. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, We're in a very critical period right now. No one knows when the enemy will come. Anyways, let's go back to the coconut plantation first. If my guess is correct, Kanaja should be there by now. We'll settle you down there and then I'll be your protector and recuperate. All right. Tang An no longer refuted Tan Xiu's suggestion and let Tan Xiu hug her waist. Then, Tan Xiu took her to the sky and flew toward the direction of the abandoned coconut plantation. At the entrance of the coconut plantation, Kanaja was smoking a cigarette while looking at the helpless Zhuo Dequan in front of him. He wouldn't have given Zhuo Dequan any face had it been in the past. But now, Zhuo Dequan's daughter turned out to be a good friend of Tan Xiu, which forced him to treat Zhuo Dequan in a different light. You mean, you refused Mr. Tang's request before? And drove them out of your place? asked Kanaja. That's right, said Zhuo helplessly. I didn't even know his identity before, nor did I know what kind of relationship he has with the Huang family of China. The Huang family is my mortal enemy, and they're very powerful and have many powerhouses. If I were to shelter Tan Xiao and the others, it would bring danger to me, and the gains would definitely outweigh the losses. You actually wasted such a great opportunity. You're really stupid. Kanaja shook his head and sighed. Forget it. I don't care about this matter. This place is your turf, so hurry up and let your men deal with the aftermath. Of course, I'll also send my men to dispose of the corpses. Also, Mr. Tang asked me to help you rebuild this place, so I naturally won't neglect him. Deduct the money you owe me from the reconstruction cost. Chapter 972. Zhuo instinctively felt suppressed in front of Kanaja. If it were a decade ago, he would have been able to straighten his back and face Kanaja. But in Bangkok, this man was richer, more powerful than him, so he could only tuck his tail between his legs and behave. You don't need to deal with the reconstruction. This is my place, so it's up to me to solve it. But I appreciate your kindness, said Zhuo. Kanaja's expression changed and he solemnly said, I think you misunderstood me. The reconstruction of your place was given to me by Mr. Tang. I naturally need to find the construction team and pay for it. You owe me money, so the salary will be directly deducted from the money you owe me. So I hope you know what to say and do in front of Mr. Tang. Zhuo instantly understood Kanaja's meaning. He was expressing goodwill to Tan Xiao. Furthermore, if Tan Xiao was a person who valued friendship, he would probably accept this favor. Zhuo could only force a wry smile inwardly. Nowadays, it was easy to repay money, but a favor was the most difficult to repay. As the saying goes, there was once an opportunity for Tan Xiao to owe him a favor, but he didn't cherish it. Only when he lost it did he regret it. Nothing could be more regretful than this in the world. If God gave him another chance, he would never miss it. If he could add a foundation to this opportunity, he would definitely serve him with all his heart and soul, even treating him like an ancestor. With a bit of regret, Zhuo was about to speak when his expression suddenly shifted. He saw his daughter, Zhuo, and two well-behaved grandsons escorted by several of his trusted men in the distance. Zhuo strode forward to greet her. Zhuo was dumbfounded at the moment. Never in her wildest dreams did she expect that this place would turn into ruins not long after she left. Could it be her father's guess was right? Tan Xiao really colluded with the Huangs and came here to retaliate? What the hell is going on, Dad? Asked Zhuo with an ugly expression. What else could it be? Zhuo forced a wry smile. It's Tan Xiao. Sure enough. I'm really sorry, Dad, said Zhuo bitterly. But Divine Dr. Tang is a well-known philanthropist in our country. I find it hard to believe that he would collude with the Huang family to harm us. Could there have been some misunderstanding? Zhuo stared blankly and looked at his daughter's bitter expression. He immediately let out a dry smile and said, There's indeed a big misunderstanding here, Xing. In fact, I misunderstood Mr. Tang. He didn't collude with the Huang family. I even believe what you said. He really helped me settle things with the Huang family. He can be considered as our family's benefactor. I said that this was caused by Mr. Tang because Mr. Tang's enemies had a conflict with him here. They had a fierce fight, and we were just affected by it. Zhuo's eyes widened and she exclaimed, You mean? Divine Dr. Tang didn't mean to destroy this place, Dad? Instead, he was fighting the enemy? How is he now? Are you hurt? You don't need to ask so many questions in one go even if you care about Mr. Tang. Zhuo forced a wry smile. I don't know either. Thank you for your kindness, Miss Zhuo. I'm fine. Tan Xiao hugged Tang'an and descended from the air and instantly appeared in front of everyone. He released Tang'an's waist and supported her arm. Then he smilingly said, I'm really sorry for making you like this, Mr. Zhuo. Don't worry, I will make it up to you. Zhuo hurriedly waved his hand and said, No. It's all right. Mr. Tang, when you fight with the enemy, you don't mean to destroy my place. saying. He suddenly thought of Kanaja and turned his head to look at him. What made his heart skip a beat was that Kanaja was looking at him with an unfriendly gaze. If he said that he didn't need Tanshio to pay for the rest of the damage, Kanaja would bear a grudge and perhaps retaliate after Tanshio left. Tanshio was keenly aware of the strange atmosphere between Zuodequan and Kanaja. He faintly smiled and said, "I'll have to trouble you this time, Mr. Kanaja. Consider this Tanshio owes you a favor. Please don't hesitate to ask me if you need my help in the future." Kanaja had been waiting for Tanshio's words. He was overjoyed inwardly and smilingly said, "You're being too polite, Mr. Tang. It's my honor to be able to serve you. You can rest assured that we've gathered all the corpses and will burn them later. Also, you ordered me to rebuild this place, so I'll contact the engineering team later to work overtime to rebuild this place as soon as possible. You don't need to worry about this place and just leave it to me." "If that's the case, then I'll have to trouble you." Tanshio nodded. "Remember to tell me how much you'll spend after you rebuild this place. I'll transfer the money directly to your account." No. "You're a guest from afar, so how can I make you spend money?" Kanaja hurriedly said. "Mr. Tang, consider the cost of rebuilding this place as my gift to you. That's right, I've also arranged this. I want to invite you to the colorful fallen petals tomorrow night. I wonder if you can do me the honor?" The colorful fallen petals? Tanshio recalled the liner on the Chao Phraya River. He heard that it was a paradise on Earth. However, he had other things to deal with and didn't have the time for the time being, so he said, "You've seen the situation here today, Kanaja. Sinquo has escaped, but there's still a fish that escaped the net. Hence, I'm afraid I can't spare the time to accept your invitation for the time being. How about this? After we've dealt with all the enemies in Sinquo and Bangkok, I'll personally prepare a gift and visit you. You can have a meal anywhere you like at that time." Kanaja didn't feel dissatisfied with Tanshio's refusal. Instead, he became more excited after hearing Tanshio's words. He firmly nodded and said, "I'll clean the bed and wait for you, Mr. Tang, since you have something to do." Tanshio said, "Everyone, please continue with your business. This grand disciple of mine is seriously injured and needs to find a quiet place to recuperate." Zuodequan had been trying to find a way to express his goodwill to Tanshio. Upon hearing his words, he immediately said, "My place has turned into ruins, Mr. Tang, but there's an underground warehouse inside. If you don't mind, you can recuperate in the underground warehouse." In a flash, several of Zuodequan's men looked shocked, puzzled and worried. "If so, please lead the way." Tanshio nodded. Zuodequan complied and then gave some instructions to his trusted men. He then led Tanshio and the others to the ruins. When they came to a collapsed building, a dozen strong men quickly cleaned up the surroundings and revealed a door leading to the underground. "Kacha!" The sound of the door was heard, and a staircase leading downward slowly appeared in front of everyone. As Zuodequan led everyone down, he explained, "This underground warehouse is actually a place where I store gold. It might be a bit messy inside, but there's a room that's very clean and well-equipped with all kinds of furniture and appliances. I often come down here to think about some things." "An underground warehouse used to store gold?" Tanshio's expression shifted and he instantly probed the inside with his spiritual sense. To his surprise, the area of the warehouse below was very large. It was more than 1,000 square meters, and there was a lot of gold stored inside, all neatly arranged on the shelves. The only room in the innermost side was not only well ventilated, but also very clean and well furnished. "It's here, Mr. Tang." Zuodequan had been paying attention to Tanshio's expression. When everyone came to the door, he noticed that Tanshio only glanced at the gold and then ignored it. This situation made his heart, which was hanging high in the air, feel much more at ease. "It's a good place." Tanshio nodded and then said, "Recuperate well. We'll stay here for the time being." "Understood, Grand Master." Tang respectfully replied. She then entered the room and closed the door from the inside. She wasn't used to being exposed to others for a long time. If it wasn't for her Grand Master, Tanshio, she would have already left. Tanshio then shifted to Zuodequan and lightly said, "What are you doing hoarding so much gold here, Mr. Zua?" Are you buying it at a low price and waiting to sell it at a high price? I'll be frank with you, Mr. Tang. Zhuo Dequan forced a wry smile and said, I have a gold mine that produces a lot of gold every year. Some of it is exchanged for cash, while the rest is stored. However, the price of gold has plummeted recently, causing me to accumulate a lot of gold that I can't sell. I owe Mr. Kanaja a lot of money, but I can't pay him back. So I'm planning to use the gold to repay the debt according to the current market price. Tan Xiao stared blankly for a moment before he nodded and said, the price of gold has indeed plummeted recently. But it's really rare for you to own a gold mine. I paid a great price to get that gold mine a few years ago. Zhuo Dequan forced a wry smile. Although I've earned back the money I invested in it in recent years, the gold mine is about to be depleted. I originally planned to wait for the price of gold to rise before exchanging it for cash. But now it seems impossible for me to do so in a short time. What's the current price of gold? Asked Tan Xiao. 290, answered Zhuo Dequan. Tan Xiao turned to Kanaja and asked, Kanaja, you won't mind if I buy gold from Zhuo Dequan, will you? Of course, I know that the price won't be too high if he wants to use gold to pay off his debt. But the price I buy from him should be higher than the current market price. I don't mind. He doesn't owe me much anyway, said Kanaja straightforwardly as he shook his head. Chapter 973. Tan Xiao slowly nodded and looked at Zhuo Dequan. You have a lot of gold hoarding here, Mr. Zhuo. I'm afraid the price of gold won't rise in a short time. How about you sell all the gold here to me? You can rest assured that I'll raise the price a bit. How about 320? 320? 30 times higher than the current price? I'll sell it to you if you want to buy it, Mr. Tang, said Zhuo Dequan without hesitation. But why do you want to buy so much gold now, though? You saw a lot of things you shouldn't have seen tonight, so I won't hide it from you, said Tan Xiao with a smile. I need gold to refine magic tools. The gold here seems to be a lot, but I can only refine a few gold magic tools. I'm willing to buy as much as you have. Refining magic tools? Gold magic tools? Zhuo Dequan's eyes instantly lit up. He recalled the flying immortal swords and divine swords that Tan Xiao used to kill the enemies. If he could also have that kind of magic treasure immortal sword, that would be simply too awesome. As he thought up to there, he hesitated and asked in a low voice, Can you sell me one of the gold magic tools you refined, Mr. Tang? I can pay you back with gold. How much do you need? Exchanging gold for a magic tool? Tan Xiao looked at Zhuo Dequan with a strange expression and couldn't help laughing. I think you misunderstood me, Mr. Zhuo. The magic tools I refine can only be used by cultivators. Ordinary people can't control them at all. Even if you buy it, it'll be of little value to me. Zhuo Dequan immediately looked disappointed after hearing it. But then he recalled the power of those immortal swords and gritted his teeth. I'll accept it even if it's of little value to me, Mr. Tang. At worst, I'll leave it to my descendants and make it the heirloom of my Zhuo family. Tan Xiao thought for a moment and then nodded with a smile. If that's the case, then I can trade one with you after I refine it. But I want to know what kind of weapon you need. The sword. It's like the immortal swords you and your men use, said Zhuo Dequan. It's very handsome and powerful. Tan Xiao was full of disdain. You want to exchange gold for immortal swords and divine swords? This was simply an international joke. Not to mention his divine sword, just the immortal swords used by Mo Ao and Jin Shi were already very high-grade immortal weapons in the immortal world. Let alone this bit of gold, the value of an immortal weapon was worlds apart from 100 gold mountains. Kanaja stood to the side, his eyes gleaming. Although he hadn't seen the scene of the battle, he could tell that the coconut plantation had been destroyed with only cold weapons. The power of the battle was immense. Perhaps, it had the function of a magic tool. He was as cunning as a fox. These were the right words to describe Kanaja. At the moment when he was tempted, he said, Mr. Tang, can you also sell me a magic tool? I am also willing to spend money to buy. You can also use gold to exchange. Give me a few days, and I'll be able to get more gold than this. The corners of Tan Xiao's mouth curled up. He seemed to have seen a way to get rich. He nodded and said, Kanaja, you also like them, so I'll give you one after I refine them. How about this? I'll stay in Bangkok for the time being while you and Misters will find a way to get as much gold as possible. I'll give you some extra benefits if the gold you get can be measured in tons. Benefits? Kanaja and Zhudequan exchanged glances and immediately nodded heavily. Whoosh! A figure flickered lightning fast from the outside and appeared in front of Tan Xiu in the blink of an eye. With a bit of worry on his face, Shui Sha respectfully reported, "We lost them, boss." Tan Xiu's complexion changed and he asked in a deep voice, "You lost them? What about Tang Guang?" Tang Guang was about to catch up with them, but a group of people suddenly appeared. They may be very weak, but their defense is very strong. Xingguo and the other guy escaped after Tang Guang killed them all because they outnumbered him, said Shui Sha. Tang Guang and Mo are now chasing after them, but the chances of catching them are very small. Clenching his fists, Tan Xiu looked at Kanaja and said, "You're the local tyrant of Bangkok, and you have forces all over the city. Help me find Xingguo and the other guy. If your men can find them one step ahead of me, I'll talk to you about a bigger deal after I kill Xingguo. This deal is definitely the biggest opportunity you've ever encountered in your life." Kanaja's eyes lit up completely and he replied without hesitation, "I'll send my men to investigate them right away. I'll definitely find them even if I have to turn the entire city upside down." Tan Xiu nodded and looked at Shui Sha again, asking, "What about Xingluan? Where is he now?" "Xingluan is on his way back," answered Shui Sha. "They're not as fast as me, so I came here first." It didn't take long. Xingluan came here with several of his trusted subordinates. The bitterness on his face was particularly intense when he appeared in front of Tang Xiu. "I'm sorry, Mr. Tang." Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "You don't need to apologize. Xingguo is our common enemy. I've asked Kanaja's help to kill him, so what we need to do now is to find them and kill them. Also, I think it's time for you to deal with your father." "We failed to kill Xingguo," said Xingluan hurriedly. "I'm afraid that if we touch my father now, what's there to be afraid of?" Tan Xiu sneered. "Besides, your father's loyal subordinates, the shaman guards, have already gone back. They may have already told your father about our plan. So we'll deal with your father directly and make you the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan." This, Xingluan hesitated. At the side, Kanaja looked horrified and hurriedly said, "You want to kill Xingguo? Xingluan, Xingguo is your father. As far as I know, he cares about you and your brother very much. We don't want to kill my father." Xingluan shook his head and said, "It's just that he's been sitting in the Dark Shaman clan's patriarch position for too long. It's time for him to step down from that position and enjoy a leisurely life." Kanaja suddenly understood and sighed. There's an old saying in Huaxia that every generation has its own talents, and each of them will lead the way for decades. Now that you've grown up, it's time for your father to step down. Besides, I'm sure the Dark Shaman clan will be more prosperous and prosperous in the future with Mr. Tang's help. Let's not talk about these useless things." Tan Xiu lightly said. "Xingluan, what's your decision?" Xingluan took a deep breath and made up his mind. Then, he said in a deep voice, "Mr. Tang, since you think it's time for my father to step down, then let's do it. However, if my father insists on refusing, please don't take his life." "That's only natural." Tan Xiu nodded. "Our purpose is very simple. We want you to become the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan. It won't be a problem even if we don't kill anyone as long as you sit in that position." Xingluan shot a grateful look at Tan Xiu and firmly nodded. "My father has always been a wise man. He'll definitely agree." At the Dark Shaman clan's territory, Xingguo stood quietly by the window, looking into the distance. He had been waiting for the news for a long time, but there was no news until now, which made him feel a bit restless. Huaxia? Cultivators? Xingguo was well aware of how powerful cultivators were. The magical arts and divine abilities they mastered were simply invincible. He had fought with several cultivators in the past. Although he didn't suffer a loss, he didn't gain any advantage either. "Are you nervous?" An old voice suddenly sounded from behind Xingguo. Then, an old man with a stooped back and a wizened face appeared out of thin air behind Xingqiu. Xingqiu turned his head and forced a smile. "Aren't you asking the obvious, father? Big brother wanted to sit on the patriarch's seat in the past, and you're well aware of the struggle between us. Do you think you wouldn't be worried if we really fought at that time?" The old man slowly nodded and sighed. "You're right. But the children and grandchildren have their own blessings. The law of this world is that the strong get the upper hand and the losers have to accept the consequences. Xingqiu is brave and resourceful. He's definitely the most suitable candidate to be the patriarch. Even if Xingluan has the help of those cultivators from Huaxia, I'm afraid he won't be able to make much waves. You just put your heart at ease. You've fought cultivators before, father." Xingqiu shook his head and said, "You know how powerful they are. Those cultivators who appeared around Xingluan this time are very young, but I'm afraid that there are some monstrous geniuses among them." The old man thought for a while and then nodded. "Let Xing's Ho go if you're really worried. You're the most powerful expert in the Dark Shaman clan on the surface, but Xing's Ho and I are stronger than you. Even I have been stuck in my cultivation all these years and haven't been able to break through. Xing's Ho has already shown signs of surpassing me." "Xingshu's cultivation has improved to such a level?" asked Xingqiu in shock. "He obtained the witch god's canon 6 months ago and obtained a powerful witchcraft technique," said the old man. "He can't be called the most outstanding cultivation genius of our Dark Shaman clan in the past hundreds of years if he can't achieve his current achievements." Xingqiu's body trembled and it took him a long time to sober up from the shock. He shook his head and secretly sighed. "It seems that Xing's Ho will soon become the strongest member of our Dark Shaman clan. But why didn't you let me tell the other clansmen that you're still alive, father? I have a hunch that our Dark Shaman clan will experience a huge change in the near future," said the old man lightly. "So, the news of me being alive must never be spread out, not even by Xingqiu and Xingluan." Suddenly, the old man looked out the window and lightly said, "They're back." Xingli didn't come back with the 13 shaman guardians, though. Chapter 974. Xingqiu furrowed his brows. He also noticed that the 13 shaman guardians had returned, and all of them were injured. Yet, they didn't bring Xingluan back. Could it be that something happened? Xingqiu instantly dashed out of the window and appeared in front of the 13 shaman guardians in the blink of an eye. He then asked in a deep voice, "Where's Xingli? Where's Xingluan? Your injuries look terrible, but there aren't any substantial injuries. What's going on here?" The 13 shaman guardians halted and knelt on one knee in front of Xingqiu. The middle-aged leader wore a complicated expression as he bitterly said, "The situation has changed, Patriarch. There's no way we can save Xingqiu. Xingli has been plotting against your position as Patriarch and has fled." Xingqiu's expression drastically changed and he shouted, "Do you know what nonsense you're talking about? Xingli is a senior elder of the Dark Shaman clan. How could he covet my position as the Patriarch?" No, what did you just say? I told you to rescue Xingluan, so how can you tell me that you can't save Xingqiu? Tell me quickly what exactly happened." The leader of the 13 shaman guardians quickly explained the situation and finally said, "Xingqiu's men were all killed, and he's probably dead now. Xingli had hidden 2 divine black thunders in his possession. Had he not been forced into a corner by young Master Xingluan's men and was about to be killed, he would never have taken out the divine black thunders to save his life." Xingqiu stared at the leader in disbelief. He couldn't believe it, but he trusted the 13 shaman guardians more. They were the most loyal warriors of the clan. If they couldn't be trusted, then it meant that the clan was doomed. But how did the situation develop to this point? Did Xingqiu really get killed by Xingluan and those Huaxia cultivators? The leader of the 13 shaman guardians hesitated for a moment and bitterly said, "You should hurry up and prepare, Patriarch." "Young Master Xingluan? What about him?" asked Xingqiu in a deep voice. "He killed Xingqiu and also wants to kill his father?" Young Master Xingluan said that his first mission is to kill Xingqiu. He'll immediately come to the clan as long as he kills Xingqiu and ask you to abdicate your position. My ultimate goal is to become the patriarch of our dark shaman clan. Xingqiu roared, "How dare he?" The leader of the 13 shaman guardians said, "The other party is very strong, patriarch. Not to mention those cultivators from China, even young Master Xingluan and his 5 guardian elders, as well as that seemingly delicate woman, have become very powerful. We used to think that young Master Xingluan's strength couldn't compare to young Master Xingguo's, but now it seems that young Master Xingluan is not any weaker than young Master Xingguo." "Nonsense. I'm well aware of Xingluan's cultivation. I tested his strength some time ago. He's still very weak. How can he catch up with Xingguo in such a short time?" Xingqiu angrily replied. The leader of the 13 shaman guardians smiled bitterly and said, "Patriarch, everything I said is true. Young Master Xingluan's strength has become very formidable. It would not be easy for me to defeat him in a one-on-one fight. In addition, the 5 guardian elders who were originally around young Master Xingluan were not that powerful. But now they have become very powerful. Even if I were to make a move, my chances of killing any of the guardian elders would not exceed 60%. Xingqiu was truly shocked. A look of disbelief flashed in his eyes and he couldn't speak for a long time. A figure flickered and instantly appeared in front of Xingqiu and the 13 shaman guardians. With a thoughtful look on his face, the old man slowly said, "It's not impossible for Xingluan and his 5 guardian elders' cultivation to advance by leaps and bounds in a short time. As far as I know, there's a way to make their strength soar." "What is it, father?" asked Xingqiu hurriedly. "It's a Chinese medicinal pill," answered the old man lightly. Xingqiu knew that there were some powerful cultivators in Huaxia who were good at refining elixirs, but that was only a legend. According to his understanding, the number of cultivators in Huaxia who could refine elixirs was as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. Each and every medicinal pill was a priceless treasure for cultivators. Even if there were some cultivators among Xingqiu's acquaintances who could refine medicinal pills, it was impossible for them to give them to Xingluan and so many people at once. The 13 shaman guardians were petrified at the moment. They stared at the old man who appeared in front of them with tongue-tied eyes. Their hearts were beating faster than before. The patriarch? How was this possible? Didn't the patriarch pass away more than a decade ago? How did he appear in front of them alive and well? The old man looked at the 13 shaman guardians and lightly smiled. "I know you're confused. I'm obviously dead, so how did I suddenly appear in front of you? Well, there's no harm in telling you now that I'm here. I actually faked my death and have been cultivating in seclusion in the family all these years. I won't show up unless the family encounters a life and death crisis." The 13 shaman guardians instantly understood. They respectfully kowtowed to the old man and called out, "Patriarch." The old man nodded with satisfaction and waved his sleeve, lifting the 13 shaman guardians up with a stream of qi. The old man then said, "You're all very good. I've trained you in the past, and you're now very strong. You've also assisted too, for all these years and have made a lot of contributions. I'll personally open the darkness altar after the family's crisis is resolved to help you advance further in your cultivation." The 13 shaman guardians looked ecstatic. They had once used the darkness altar to enhance their strength, but that was more than a decade ago. If they could use the power of the darkness altar again to enhance their strength to a higher level, then their strength would be comparable to the current patriarch. "Thank you, patriarch." Xingqiu looked at the old man and said, "Father, how should we solve this incident? Do you really want to give the patriarch position to Xingluan? If you want to give the patriarch position to Xingluan, then he'll be the patriarch of our dark shaman clan," said the old man lightly. "But if he forcibly takes it, it'll be considered a treason and a heinous crime." Xingqiu slowly nodded and said, "I understand what you mean, father. You can rest assured. I'll immediately make preparations. If Xingluan continues to work hard, I'll pass the patriarch position to him in the future. But if he dares to usurp the throne, I'll eliminate this scourge even if he's my own son." After a while, a large number of dark shaman clansmen immediately returned to the clan after receiving the patriarch's order. Therefore, even the members of the clan all over the world put down their work and hurried to the Dark Shaman clan's territory in Bangkok. Near the coconut plantation ruins, Singluan received a message and his expression suddenly changed. Tan Xiao, who was nearby, immediately asked after seeing his unusual expression, "What happened?" "It should be the 13 shaman guardians who told my father that I want to usurp the patriarch's position. My father has issued an order for all the Dark Shaman clan's clansmen outside to return at once. But I didn't receive any news, and neither did my subordinates. It seems your father has begun to guard against you." Tan Xiao sighed. "Singluan, I'm afraid you'll have to face the entire Dark Shaman clan if we don't speed up." "Let's head to the Dark Shaman clan's territory now, Mr. Tang," said Singluan. "My father has no intention to pass the patriarch position to me, so we'll use force." Tan Xiao nodded and said, "If that's the case, then let's go. Jinshi, you stay here and protect Tang and make sure she's safe and sound." "I won't let anyone disturb Tang An's recuperation unless I die," said Jinshi respectfully. "No need." Suddenly, a hazy figure flashed from the distance and instantly appeared in front of them. Tang An was still dressed in a black robe with a bronze mask on her face and pitch-black gloves on her hands. After looking at Tan Xiao, she respectfully said, "Grand Master, my injuries are almost healed. I'm sure I'll be better by the time we arrive at the Dark Shaman clan's territory if I continue to recuperate on the way." "Are you sure you're all right?" asked Tan Xiao. "I'm really fine," said Tang An. "It won't affect me much even if we have to fight again. Besides, I'm good at sneak attacks, so I'll leave the frontal combat to you." "If that's the case, then let's hit the road together." Tan Xiao nodded. Quickly. More than a dozen cars quickly headed toward the Dark Shaman clan's territory. These cars were borrowed by Tan Xiao from Kanaja and Zhuodequan. The purpose was to buy more time and make it easier for them to move. Half an hour later, as more than a dozen cars bypassed the downtown area of Bangkok and drove on the wide highway, a figure flashed lightning fast from a distance. As the car door opened and closed, Tang Guang was already sitting next to Tan Xiao. "How is it? You didn't find him?" Tan Xiao turned to look at Tang Guang and lightly asked. "I didn't find him," said Tang Guang with a forced smile. "Singluan is very good at escaping, and that young man who ran away with him is also quite capable. Initially, I managed to track them down quite a few times, but in the end, I still lost track of them as I chased after them. The number of enemies we've provoked recently is quite a lot." Tan Xiao sneered. "It seems that we need to take some precautions after we return to the country. Tang Guang, there's something I need you to do after Singluan takes the Dark Shaman clan's patriarch seat." "Please instruct me, Grand Master," said Tang Guang respectfully. "I'm going to send you to Japan to secretly help Kawako take full control of the Yamamoto clan," said Tan Xiao lightly. "Also, help her train a group of powerful experts to fight against the enemy in the future. It's also a good choice for the Japanese to be the vanguard." Chapter 975. Dark clouds dominated the sky. Even though it was sunrise in the east, the world of Bangkok was still filled with darkness. The rolling thunder seemed to come from the 9 heavens, and the oppressive feeling of an approaching storm made everyone's hearts heavy. The smell of blood. It was as if it was still shrouding the tip of his nose. The indistinct killing intent caused a chill to appear on the hot summer day. Tan Xiao sat quietly in the car, but his mind was filled with countless thoughts. The great Tao was heartless, but he had feelings. Unfortunately, if he wanted to obtain more, if he wanted to go further and higher, he had to be cruel and merciless towards his enemies. Dark Shaman clan. Tan Xiao rested his fingers on his thighs as he pondered how to deal with Xingchuo, the head of the family. According to the information he got from Singluan, he knew that Xingchuo was a very powerful witchcraft cultivator and was even known as the #1 expert of the Dark Shaman clan. Tan Xiao wasn't afraid of Xingchuo in a head-on confrontation, but he didn't want to completely eradicate the Dark Shaman clan this time. He just wanted to make Singluan the patriarch of the clan. Moreover, Singluan was reluctant to kill his father out of consideration for their father-son relationship. Therefore, he could only think of another way to make Xingqiu give up his position as the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan. That's the best. They could win without shedding blood. Tan Xiu slowly looked up. His eyes shifted from Tang Guang next to him to Mo Ao in the front seat, and then shifted to Jin Shi who was driving. After a few minutes of silence, he asked indifferently, "Do you have any good ideas to deal with the Dark Shaman clan's patriarch?" "Just capture the Dark Shaman clan's patriarch, boss," said Mo Ao coldly from the co-pilot seat. "Don't show any mercy if he dares to resist. Blades and swords have no eyes. I believe Xingluan won't be able to say anything if he is killed in a conflict." Tan Xiu asked, "What about you too?" "I agree with Ao's idea," said Jin Shi without looking back. "As long as we're strong enough, we can force the current patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan to abdicate. Xingluan is his biological son, so it's only natural for him to inherit the position of patriarch. Those who obey me will prosper, and those who oppose me will perish. What Xingluan cares about the most is the position of the patriarch." Tang Guang glanced at Tan Xiu and slowly said, "I think it's best not to kill the current patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan if possible. Xingluan and we are only in a cooperative relationship. If we kill his father this time, even if we do it for his own good, I'm afraid he will have a grudge in his heart. He won't dare to go against us if the Dark Shaman clan he controls is weak, but if the Dark Shaman clan becomes strong, I'm afraid he'll have second thoughts." Tan Xiu said, "Tell me the solution." "I suggest outsmarting him," said Tang Guang. "The best way is to control the current patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan. As long as we can control his life, we don't have to worry about him not abdicating his position." A smile appeared on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth and he asked again, "Tell me, how are we going to control the life of the current patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan?" "If I remember correctly, boss, you seem to have used some means to control Kawako Yamamoto of Japan," said Tang Guang. "If you can use this method to control the current patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan, even if Xingluan becomes the next patriarch, it's tantamount to burying a nail in the Dark Shaman clan. If Xingluan is disloyal to us in the future, we can just let his father replace him." "That's a good idea, but the method I used on Kawako is very difficult to use on the current patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan." Tan Xiu shook his head. It was the soul controlling spell. There were two prerequisites for using this divine technique to control others. First, one had to suppress the other party with formidable strength that could easily tear apart the other party's mind and directly cast it in an overbearing manner. However, using this divine technique would at least be much more powerful than the other party. Second, the other party had to open their mind and actively cooperate with the caster, which was equivalent to putting their life in the caster's hands. Although Tan Xiu had never seen the current patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan, he could guess that the man would never open his mind and let him use the soul-controlling technique to control his life. Tang Guang was silent for a moment and then slowly said, "Boss, since the method you used before isn't feasible, then there's only one way left." "Speak." Tan Xiu's voice was calm, but he could guess Tang Guang's idea. "Poison," said Tang Guang. "Using poison is indeed a good idea." Tan Xiu nodded. "I can also refine many powerful poison pills. Unfortunately, the time is too tight and it's a bit unrealistic to refine a poison pill." "Boss." "Unless what?" asked Tang Guang hurriedly. "Unless it's the blood of high-ranking fierce beasts and it must be preserved very well. Only then can I concoct a poison in a short time," said Tan Xiu. "Unfortunately, I have the blood of low-ranking and mid-ranking fierce beasts, but I don't have high-ranking fierce beasts' blood. Otherwise, the current patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan would be poisoned unknowingly." Mo Ao's expression suddenly changed, and he said, "Boss, I might have the blood of a high-level fierce beast." Saying, he took out a jade bottle from his interspatial ring and handed it to Tan Xiu. "I got it from a chief in Africa when I was on a mission abroad a few years ago. According to the chieftain, this blood came from a divine beast, and their ancestors had spent a lot of effort to obtain it. Also, this blood can nurture blood energy and increase the bodily functions of normal people. A one and I have used this blood before, and it has brought us many benefits. Tan Shio's expression moved. After taking the jade bottle, he opened the lid and sniffed it. A pleasantly surprised look immediately appeared on his face as he praised, "Not bad. This is indeed the blood of a high-level fierce beast. The rarest and most valuable thing is that the blood is well preserved. With it, I can refine poisons in a short time." "Do you know what fierce beast's blood this is, boss?" asked Mo curiously. "The python has evolved into a flood dragon. After living for thousands of years, it has gradually grasped the cultivation method," said Tan Shio with a smile. "Hence, its bloodline has been upgraded and its strength has become very terrifying. Even with your current strength, you're not its match. Unless you can break through to the nascent soul stage one day, only death will await you in front of it. Speaking of which, this tribe you encountered is not simple at all, Aw." "It's indeed not simple." Mo nodded and said, "The priests of this tribe seem to have a special ability to communicate with animals. However, not all animals can communicate with them. They can't communicate with some animals with very low intelligence." "I know a type of people called beast tamers," said Tan Shio. "This kind of people have ordinary strength, but they can get help from fierce beasts, spirit beasts, and immortal beasts. Every qualified beast tamer has at least one life-bound beast. Anyways, let's not talk about this. Let's not rush to see the current patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan after we arrive there. I need to find a secluded place to refine the poison." "Understood." All of them complied. 2 hours later, the convoy appeared near the Dark Shaman clan's territory. Although Singluan was eager to return to his clan and use Tan Shio's power to force his father to abdicate, Tan Shio didn't want to go to his clan for the time being. Thus, he could only suppress the dissatisfaction in his heart and wait quietly in the car. "How long will it take? Where did Mr. Tang go?" After waiting for more than half an hour, Singluan finally couldn't help but look at Mo outside the window and asked. "Boss said that he has something to do, so we just need to wait here," said Mo. "Young Master Singluan, you should know Boss's temperament very well. He won't delay going to the Dark Shaman clan for no reason. Maybe he's preparing something. He'll go with you to the Dark Shaman clan after everything is ready." "But," Singluan hurriedly said. But just as he spoke, Mo interrupted him. "Young Master Singluan, our boss never fights an unprepared battle. The purpose of going to the Dark Shaman clan this time is to make you the patriarch of the clan. If our boss isn't well prepared, won't he be irresponsible if he can't help you take the patriarch's seat when the Dark Shaman clan encounters an accident? In fact, I think the more prepared boss is, the happier you will be," said Mo slowly with a smile on his face. Singluan was stunned. He felt that Mo's words made sense, and the more he thought about it, the more he felt that it made sense. The more prepared Tan Shio was, the more likely he was to take the patriarch's seat of the Dark Shaman clan. "Is there any news about Sinquo?" Singluan's anxious mood calmed down. The thought that his big brother had yet to be killed made him a bit restless. "Not yet." Mo shook his head. "There's an old saying in China that a cunning rabbit has 3 burrows. Sinquo has been operating in Bangkok for many years, so I'm sure he has arranged many hiding places in advance. Hence, we can't be anxious now. We'll help you take the patriarch's seat of the Dark Shaman clan first, and then we'll go all out to track his whereabouts. As long as we find him, we'll kill him directly. That seems to be the only way." Singluan nodded. "I hope my father won't be too vigilant against me, else it won't be easy for us to use force to force him to abdicate if a large number of the Dark Shaman clan's elites return. There's nothing our boss can't do if he wants to," said Mo in a deep voice. "Even if the entire Dark Shaman clan gathers together, our boss can use force to suppress them if he wants to." Singluan shuddered inwardly and fell into silence. At noon, Tan Shio returned with Tang Guang. After sitting in the car again, he issued an order to immediately rush to the Dark Shaman clan. He had a lot of medicinal herbs in his interspatial ring, so he had already refined the poison and even the antidote. As long as he used it on the current patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan, Xingchuo, he would probably be poisoned even if he had the strength comparable to a nascent soul stage expert. Today's outbreak is over. For the sake of Silent Night Festival's outbreak, I humbly ask for a guaranteed monthly vote _. Chapter 976. Dark Shaman Clan's Territory. Inside the sacred and solemn clan's ancestral hall, more than a dozen senior members of the Dark Shaman clan were gathered together. Each of them was a witchcraft expert whose strength was not inferior to Singluan and Sinquo. As the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan, Singchuo had always been calm and indifferent in the eyes of others. But at this moment, the others discovered that the patriarch's eyes were filled with anxiety, and there was a trace of unconcealable killing intent leaking from his body. What was going on? Just what was the reason for the patriarch to be so nervous? Even going as far as to recall all the members of the family who were outside, acting as if they were facing a great enemy? Patriarch. A middle-aged man with a stocky build and a murderous aura walked in from outside. His eyes flashed with a cold light as he stopped in front of Singchuo. Singchuo's expression shifted and he asked in a deep voice, "What's the situation? Are there any unusual movements from them?" The middle-aged man replied in a cold voice, "Their convoy has already moved a few minutes ago and they're rushing towards our clan. It's estimated that they'll arrive at our clan's gate in 10 minutes. Also, I have issued an order that all those who follow Singluan must hand over their weapons if he wants to enter the family." Singchuo nodded without a word. His eyes then swept over the family's top brass in the ancestral hall and said in a deep voice, "Everyone, I think you must be very confused. Why did I suddenly call you back and why did I order the family to prepare for war? Now, I can tell you that our Dark Shaman clan is unfortunate. We have an unfilial descendant who colluded with foreign enemies and tried to replace me as the patriarch of the clan. And that person is my biological son, Singluan." "What? Patriarch, how is this possible?" "Yeah. All of us watched young Master Singluan grow up, so we know his character and temperament very well. He wouldn't dare to act recklessly even if he was given 100 guts. Did you make a mistake? Patriarch, I think you might have misunderstood Singluan. All these years, he had been cultivating diligently and was absolutely loyal to the family. Although he's not as good as Sinquo in terms of cultivation and intelligence, I don't think he would covet your position as the patriarch, right? I think there must be some misunderstanding. If young Master Singluan comes back, we can talk about it. After all, he's your son and he knows the rules of our clan. If he wants to be the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan, he must have formidable strength." More than a dozen high-ranking members of the Dark Shaman clan exclaimed in disbelief. A grief-stricken look flashed in Singchuo's eyes as he said in a deep voice, "I know you don't believe me, but it's the truth. If my guess is correct, Sinquo has already been killed by him." As for Xing Li and the 13 shaman guardians that I sent over, the 13 shaman guardians retreated in defeat. In order to save his life, Xing Li even took out the divine black thunder that he carried with him as a bargaining chip. The other party was afraid of the divine black thunder, so he let Xing Li go. However, Xing Li knew about our family's taboo, so he did not return with the 13 shaman guardians. Instead, he escaped without a trace. More than a dozen high-ranking members of the Dark Shaman clan were shocked by the news. They were all inexplicably shocked and speechless for a long time. "I'll give you a few minutes to calm down and prepare to face the enemy with me," said Singchuo in a deep voice. "If Singluan really has bad intentions and tries to use external enemies to threaten us with force, then let's kill him. This is the tribulation of our Dark Shaman clan. Whether we can get through this safely depends on everyone's unity and common hatred against the common enemy." All of a sudden, a white-haired but spirited old man got up from his chair. He raised the magic staff in his hand and said in a deep voice, "My Dark Shaman clan will never allow any external enemies to bully us. If Singluan really dares to collude with external enemies, then he'll be our clan's enemy. There's no need to say anything when it comes to dealing with enemies. Just kill them. Kill them all." The others roared loudly. At the Dark Shaman clan's gate. As soon as the convoy stopped, more than a dozen experts of the Dark Shaman clan drew their weapons and stared coldly at Singluan, Tan Xiao, and the others who just came out of the car. Below the gate, 13 shaman guardians were waiting in formation, glaring at Tan Xiao, Singluan, and the others like tigers watching their prey. Stop right there. The stocky astral beast looked like a ferocious beast from the great desolate Aeon. It held a saber in its hand, and its bell-sized eyes radiated dense killing intent as it roared. Fear flashed in Singluan's eyes the moment he saw Singluan. There were only two people he feared in the entire Dark Shaman clan. One was his father, Singchuo, and the other was Singluan. It was because everyone in the clan knew that Singluan was the most outstanding cultivation genius of the clan in the last hundreds of years. His cultivation was close to that of the clan's #1 expert, his father. Furthermore, Singluan had a very rough character and a wild nature was ingrained in his bones. He was not afraid of the heavens or the earth. Even his father, the patriarch, was not afraid of Singluan. Of course, he was absolutely loyal to the Dark Shaman clan and also respected his father, Singchuo. In a low voice, Singluan told Tan Xiao about Singluan's situation. Finally, he said, "Mr. Tang, even if the 5 guardian elders have their cultivation soar to a higher level, I'm afraid it'll still be very difficult for them to be Singluan's match. Rumor has it that Singluan's strength has already caught up with my father's." Tan Xiao could judge Singluan's true strength from the imposing aura exuded by Singluan. It should be comparable to a golden core stage cultivator, and he might not be inferior to Tang Guang. However, Tang Guang was not the only one who came to the Dark Shaman clan this time. Not to mention Tang and who was hiding in the dark, Tang Xiao himself could kill this Singluan. "Tell him to scram or I'll kill him without mercy." Tan Xiao was filled with murderous intent toward Singluan. Singluan was not that old and was definitely not more than 10 years older than him. The fact that he possessed such formidable strength at such a young age indicated that his cultivation talent was definitely not bad. If he were to let such a person live and help Singchuo in the future, it was very likely that the Dark Shaman clan would become stronger. The reason why he helped Singluan was for a deal. In case the Dark Shaman clan under Singluan's control became more and more powerful in the future, it was very likely that Singluan would no longer respect him and might even harbor disloyalty. Singluan recalled how powerful Tan Xiao and the others were. He immediately became more resolute and took a few steps forward. He then stared straight at Singluan and shouted, "Singluan, take your men and scram. The Dark Shaman clan is my home. Do you think this young master needs your permission to go home?" The Patriarch has decreed that non-members of the Dark Shaman clan are not allowed to enter the clan's land. Even members of the clan must hand over their weapons when they enter the clan. "Singluan, I won't stop you since you're the second young master of the Dark Shaman clan. But those who are not from our clan are not allowed to enter. Also, hand over your weapons. The Patriarch is waiting for you inside." Tan Xiao came to Singluan's side and looked at the murderous Singluan. He then coldly snorted and said, "You're very strong, but it's not like I can't kill you. I'm perfectly aware of how powerful your Dark Shaman clan is. It's a piece of cake for me to annihilate you if I want to. So don't be a mantis trying to stop a chariot and get out of my way. Else, I don't mind killing you first." "Shut up, foreign enemy," Singluan shouted. "You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." Tan Xiao sneered. "I hope you still have the strength to shout later. Tang Guang, kill him." Tang Guang's figure turned into a flash of lightning and appeared in front of Singluan in a flash. He unleashed his immortal sword as layers of sword images surged forward like raging waves and stormed toward the burly Singluan. Tenebrous domain. Singluan fiercely stomped his foot. A black mist emerged in the surroundings and quickly enveloped a radius of nearly 100 meters. He raised the long saber in his hand high and crazily poured his wizard power into it. A tens of meters long saber image slashed forward, attempting to destroy all the sword images with a single slash. Boom! The collision of the immortal sword and the long saber created a huge flame. The surging airwaves forced most of the people within a radius of tens of meters to retreat, causing them to stagger back a dozen steps before they could stabilize their bodies. Tang Guang and Singluan each retreated 10 steps back, but their killing intent kept rising. A formidable enemy. This was the truest portrayal of the two men's hearts, but it also aroused their desire to kill. At this moment, Tang Guang even shouted, "He's my enemy alone. I must slay him with my sword today." Standing not far away, Tan Xiu's primal chaos force surged around him and forced back all the black mist within a radius of 4 to 5 meters. At this moment, a barely discernible voice reached his ears. "Should I act, Grand Master?" Tan Xiu was silent for a moment and replied, "Our purpose is very simple. Kill the enemy. I'll naturally arrange an opponent for Tang Guang later if he wants one, but not now." "I understand." Tang replied and didn't move again. Exquisite sword moves, endless magical attacks, coupled with Tang Guang's strength at the mid-stage of Golden Core, the explosive power was so strong that even the Dark Shaman clan's gate was blasted down by the aftermath. Xingluan's moves, on the other hand, were very simple, but they were all aimed at the vital points. Coupled with the darkness domain he cast, it caused a certain hindrance to Tang Guang, so the two men were evenly matched in the fight. Heart-piercing 1,000 arrows. Kill. Tang Guang's body rose from the ground and his immortal sword unleashed tens of meters of sword light that fell from the sky. Sand and pebbles were blown into the air, and some of the soil and stones even formed into swords as they slashed toward Xingluan. Xingluan's expression was unprecedentedly solemn. He kept brandishing his long saber and unleashed a burst of extremely powerful saber images. He firmly believed in the saying that only the brave would win when enemies meet on a narrow path. He wasn't afraid of death and was instead looking forward to this kind of life and death battle to hone himself. I'll continue with 4 chapters today. Please support me with a guaranteed monthly ticket. Please pay attention to my ID. Chapter 977. You're the one who's going to die today. Xing Shou bellowed angrily and his body also rose from the ground. The black mist churned ceaselessly as black saber shadows were formed in the mist and clashed with the sword light. "Who is it?" Suddenly Xing Shou's expression changed drastically. Just as he spoke, a sword light that was like a bolt of lightning appeared from his lower left side, and it pierced into his left lower ribs at the moment when he couldn't dodge at all. Moreover, as the sword light swept out, it broke at least a few of his ribs. Lightning! Tang suddenly appeared at this moment. An imperceptible lightning followed the sword shadow and drilled into Xing Shou's body. The moment his body slightly stiffened, the immortal sword was pulled out from his body and swept across his neck. It was a sneak attack, yet it was effective. Tang Guang was stunned. He had clearly expressed his intention just now, so why did his sister, Tang, still attack him? Anger erupted in his chest. He looked at Xing Shou's body that was decapitated and fell from midair. Then he angrily shouted, "Who told you to attack him?" Tang, clad in a black robe, appeared out of thin air. She shot a cold glance at Tang Guang and indifferently said, "Grand Master's purpose is to kill the enemy, not to let you kill and temper yourself. Grand Master said that he'll arrange it for you later if you want to find an evenly matched enemy. But now, you must kill the enemy and help Xingluan become the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan." "Grand Master?" Tang Guang's angry face froze. After a long while, he shook his head with a wry smile and flew to appear in front of Tan Xiu. He forced a smile and said, "This is actually a very good opportunity to hone myself, Grand Master. I even have a feeling that I can break through again once I kill that guy." "I have more important things to do, so I don't have time to waste here," said Tan Xiu lightly. "And already told you very clearly that I'll naturally arrange it for you later if you need an evenly matched enemy. But now is not the time." Tang Guang took a deep breath and respectfully replied, "I understand, Grand Master." Tan Xiu nodded in response. He then looked at the Dark Shaman clan's experts, whose faces had turned extremely ugly and a bit fearful. Then, he said in a deep voice, 13 Shaman Guardians, you should be aware of our strength. You can't stop us with just these people. If you know what's good for you, get the hell out of here. Otherwise, I don't mind slaughtering your Dark Shaman clan." At this moment, the 13 Shaman Guardians were stunned by the scene in front of them. They had once given Xing Shou pointers, but their cultivation levels had been surpassed by Xing Shou. Even now, the 13 of them might not be a match for Xing Shou even if they joined forces. But how could he be killed just like that? They were the vanguard of the Dark Shaman clan and the most loyal warriors. However, this didn't mean that they didn't fear death. The fate of the star beast caused them to shiver, and the thought of retreating appeared in their hearts. The dozen or so guards also had fearful expressions on their faces. They retreated one after another, and in just a few seconds, they had already retreated to the front of the 13 shaman guardians. If someone were to tell them to retreat at this time, they would probably run away immediately and hide far away. The leader of the 13 shaman guardians quickly discussed with his companions for a moment. Then he immediately shouted, "Since they want to die in our Dark Shaman clan, then we'll fulfill their wish. Everyone, retreat to the clan and wait for the order to counterattack." Immediately, a total of more than 20 people quickly entered the Dark Shaman clan's territory. A disdainful look flashed in Tanxio's eyes as he said in a deep voice, "Go inside and don't show any mercy if you encounter any resistance." At this moment, Xingluan had already rushed back to Tanxio's side. His heart trembled as he looked at Xing Shou's corpse. He didn't have much affection for Xing Shou, and he was even a bit afraid of him. But now, Xing Shou was killed by Tang Guang and Tang An's joint attack. It made him feel a chill inside. He knew it. Tan Xiu was actually more powerful. Even if Tang Guang and Tang An joined forces, they would still be no match for Tan Xiu. Yet, Xing Shou was killed by Tang Guang and Tang An. Did this mean that Tan Xiu had the ability to kill his father? If his father insisted on not handing over the patriarch position to him, would he issue an order to slaughter the entire Dark Shaman clan? Suddenly, he faintly regretted that he had been too impatient and let a wolf into the house. If Tan Xiu really gave the order to kill all the Dark Shaman clan's members, then he would become the sinner of the clan. "Tan Xiu," Xingluan called out with a bit of worry. Tan Xiu raised his hand and indifferently said, "I know what you want to say, Xingluan. Don't worry. I may say that I'm going to slaughter everyone in the Dark Shaman clan, but I won't take any action. Don't worry. If we can meet your father smoothly, you can sit on the patriarch's seat of the Dark Shaman clan even if no one from your clan dies. In addition, you can also pick out those who are hostile to you and use this opportunity to help you get rid of them." Xingluan shook his head. Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and shot him a faint smile. Then, he floated up and bolted into the Dark Shaman clan's territory lightning fast. Inside the ancestral hall, Xingchuo's eyes kept sweeping outside the ancestral hall's gate with murderous intent. He was waiting for the news of Xing Shou's triumphant return. The problem would be solved as long as Xing Shou could keep the enemy outside the gate. But if he couldn't even stop Xing Shou and was forced to retreat, then he would have to use all the clan's power to fight the enemy. Whoosh! A figure flickered lightning fast and instantly dashed into the ancestral hall. The leader of the 13 shaman guardians came to Xingchuo with a livid face and bitterly said, "Xing Shou has been killed, Patriarch. We can't stop them and they've already killed their way inside. It's estimated that they'll be here soon." Xingchuo's expression drastically changed and disbelief filled his eyes. He even doubted his ears at this moment. Did he hear it wrong? Xing Shou? He's dead? How is this possible? His father had personally said that Xing Shou's current strength was already extremely powerful. Even if he were to compare himself to him, he would probably be inferior. How could he be killed by the enemy? Xingchuo stared at the leader of the 13 shaman guardians and fiercely shouted, "What the hell are you talking about? I'm perfectly aware of Xing Shou's strength. Even I'm not necessarily his match. How could he die in the enemy's hands? Tell me, what the hell is going on?" "Everything I said is true, Patriarch." The leader of the 13 shaman guardians bitterly said, "The enemy really killed Xing Shou. However, the enemy is very despicable. Originally, Xing Shou and another enemy were evenly matched, but an assassin suddenly appeared and killed Xing Shou with a sneak attack." The white-haired old man looked at Xingchuo and incredulously asked, "What did you just say, Patriarch? Xing Shou is stronger than you? How is that possible? You're the strongest expert in our Dark Shaman clan." "Xing Shou is indeed stronger than Tu. I'm afraid I won't be his match if we give him a few more years. The enemy we're about to face this time is very powerful. An old man appeared out of thin air and spoke in a deep voice with a bit of heartache. You, Patriarch? Heavens! I'm not seeing things, am I? Didn't the Patriarch pass away more than a decade ago? How did he come back to life? That's right. It's the Patriarch. What the hell is going on here? More than a dozen senior members of the Dark Shaman clan couldn't help but exclaim. Two of them even ran to the old man to confirm that they weren't seeing things. I know my appearance must be very confusing to you, said the old man lightly. I can only tell you that I didn't really die more than a decade ago. I just didn't want to deal with the clan's trivial matters, so I faked my death and have been cultivating in secret. I wouldn't have appeared in front of you if the clan hadn't encountered a crisis of life and death. It's great that you're still alive, Patriarch, said the white-haired old man excitedly. No matter how powerful the enemy is, I believe we can defeat them under your leadership. It's too early to boast. Tan Xiu's figure appeared outside the ancestral hall and looked at the top members of the Dark Shaman clan inside with a disdainful expression. However, Singluan, who followed him, was petrified after seeing the old man's appearance. He would have been in a daze for a long time had it not been for Tan Xiu's touch. What's going on? Asked Tan Xiu in a low voice. Although Singluan had sobered up from the shock, fear was still churning inside his heart. He never expected that the previous patriarch of the clan, his grandfather, was still alive. Judging from the aura he exuded, he was much stronger than he was a decade ago. If only, had he known that his grandfather was still alive, he wouldn't have dared to collude with Tan Xiu even if he was given 10,000 times more courage, let alone coveting the position of patriarch. It's my grandfather. Singluan's voice was a bit trembling as he looked at Tan Xiu with a bitter expression. Is he very powerful? Asked Tan Xiu. My grandfather was already the strongest expert of the Dark Shaman clan decades ago. Singluan nodded. His strength was even more unfathomable a decade ago. We originally thought that our Dark Shaman clan would become stronger and stronger under his leadership, and it wouldn't take long for us to catch up with the Celestial Wizard clan. But we never expected that he would suddenly pass away. After that, he was never seen again. It turns out he faked his death. Even if he's very strong, he's not stronger than me. Tan Xiu sneered. It seems that my previous arrangement was correct. Else, I'm afraid we'll have to pay a very painful price even if we can help you become the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan. Singluan's expression shifted and he hurriedly asked, What arrangement did you make in advance, Mr. Tang? Can you really help me become the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan? Even if my grandfather is still alive? Chapter 978. Tan Xiu moved his fingers and a small jade bottle appeared in his palm. He then wrapped his thought around the bottle's mouth and the lid was instantly pulled open. A colorless and odorless gas floated out of the bottle's mouth. Tan Xiu wrapped it with his power and then floated towards Xingchuo and the old man. All of this was done very secretly. Not to mention Xingchuo and the old man in the ancestral hall, even Singluan didn't notice it. I want to know who's in charge of the Dark Shaman clan now? Tan Xiu looked at Xingchuo and the old man with a playful expression. There is the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan, so he's naturally in charge, said the old man indifferently. Well, it's much easier since there's a patriarch now. Tan Xiu nodded. Xingchuo, is it? The current patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan? Don't you think your clan has been lifeless all these years? Even your own son, the young master of the Dark Shaman clan, is so poor that he doesn't even have the money to buy things. What do you mean? Asked Xingchuo coldly. What I mean is actually very simple, said Tan Xiu with a smile. You abdicate and give the position of the patriarch to Singluan. I believe the Dark Shaman clan will become stronger and stronger under Singluan's leadership. This is the Dark Shaman clan's matter. It's not your turn to worry about it, is it? Sneered Xingchuo. Tan Xiu shrugged his shoulders and lightly smiled. What I said is the truth, and it's also the true portrayal of Singluan's heart. You can ask him if you don't believe me. Singluan looked at the calm expression on Tan Xiu's face. His heart, which had been hanging by a thread due to his grandfather's sudden appearance, finally calmed down. He took a deep breath and looked straight at Xingqiu. Your old father. Being the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan will affect your cultivation. You might as well pass the position of the patriarch to me and let me take control of the entire Dark Shaman clan. You can rest assured that as long as I become the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan, I'll vigorously develop the patriarch's power so that the strength of the clan will advance by leaps and bounds in a short time. As for you, you can also go into secluded cultivation in peace, and won't be affected by the mundane affairs of the clan. Shut up, you unfilial son. Xingqiu angrily shouted. In the past, I would have considered giving you the position of patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan. But now, you actually colluded with outsiders and attempted to deal with your father. People like you don't deserve to be the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan. You don't even deserve to be a member of the clan. Xingluan's face turned cold and he said in a deep voice, Father, do you mean you don't want to hand over the patriarch position to me? Do you know that Xingqiu is going to die soon? Other than me, you don't have a second son to pass the throne to. Xingqiu's eyes gleamed and he asked in a deep voice, So, Xingqiu is still alive? He's indeed alive, but he's not far from death, snorted Xingluan coldly. Where is Xingqiu? Asked Xingqiu in a deep voice. You still care about your eldest son? Xingluan angrily retorted. Ha! I already knew that you're biased, but I didn't expect you to be this biased. Xingqiu has been suppressing me all these years, to the point that I can't even breathe. Besides, I'm afraid he'll attack me for the patriarch position. But not only did you not help me, you even helped Xingqiu. I'm very disappointed in you. Xingqiu is courageous and resourceful. He's the best candidate to inherit the Dark Shaman clan's patriarch position, said Xingqiu hatefully. But you can't compare with him, so I can only choose the best one. But I don't want you to die. I knew that you and Xingqiu were going to fight to the death, so I sent Xingli and the 13 shaman guardians to protect you in secret. Tan Xiu patted Xingluan's shoulder and lightly said, There's nothing more to say now that things have come to this. It's obvious that he won't hand over the patriarch position to you so easily. Therefore, we can only threaten him with force unless he's not afraid of death. Xingqiu angrily glared at Tan Xiu and shouted, It seems that you really want to meddle in the affairs of our Dark Shaman clan. Aren't you afraid of dying here? Me dying here? Tan Xiu sneered. You're talking nonsense, aren't you? Try to circulate your sorcery power and tell me what you think, Xingqiu. Xingqiu stared blankly for a moment and immediately tried to circulate his sorcery power. His face suddenly changed as he found that his body felt weak and numb. It became a bit strenuous to circulate the sorcery power in his meridians. What's going on? Xingqiu quickly turned his head to look at his father. The old man frowned and also secretly circulated the sorcery power in his body. Immediately after, his complexion turned ashen and fear flashed in his eyes. When he looked up at Tan Xiu, he shouted sternly, What the hell did you do? But Tan Xiu interrupted him and grinned, Why do you feel that it's a bit strenuous to circulate the sorcery power in your body? Why do you feel that your body is numb? Alright. I'm someone who likes to help others achieve their goals, so I'll satisfy your curiosity. I've already secretly poisoned you when we came here. Everyone in the ancestral hall has been poisoned, and no one in this world can give you the antidote except for me. God damn it. The old man's expression drastically changed, and he instantly lunged at Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu grabbed Xingluan's shoulder and retreated dozens of meters in an instant. Then he laughed aloud and said, But I advise you to hurry up if you want to fight me. The more time passes, the more strenuous it will be for you to circulate your sorcery power and the more intense the numbness in your body will be. Of course, you must also be prepared. If you really want to fight with us, I'll kill all of you after your strength is greatly damaged. That way, I'll help Xingluan cultivate another batch of sorcery cultivators. Get back! Tang Guang suddenly appeared in front of Tan Xiu and fiercely slashed his immortal sword, causing the old man's heartbeat to accelerate. Just as he was about to dodge, another immortal sword silently appeared in front of him. Although it didn't seem to be very powerful, it was too fast and extremely tricky. He could only give up attacking Tan Xiao and retreated back to the ancestral hall. Tan Xiao took out a cigarette from his pocket, lit it up and took 2 deep puffs. Then he exhaled a mouthful of smoke and said, "A wise man submits to the circumstances, everyone. Since we've come here, it means that we're fully prepared. No matter how much you struggle, I'll control your fate. If you want to live, then let Xingluan be the new patriarch of your clan. But if you want to die, I can help you. I'll kill you." Xingchuo instantly pulled out a scimitar from his waist and raised the staff in his left hand. The scimitar in his right hand fiercely slashed at Tan Xiao. Enough. The old man's figure flickered and directly dispelled Xingchuo's attack. Under Xingchuo's incredulous eyes, he looked at Tan Xiao and said, "Is your purpose really that simple? To help Xingluan become the patriarch of my dark shaman clan? Or is there any deal between you and Xingluan?" Tan Xiao gave a thumbs up and praised, "Sure enough, the older the ginger, the wiser the spicier. You guessed it right. There is indeed a deal between me and Xingluan, but it's a deal in which both sides can benefit from it. I'm not the only one taking advantage of it. Am I right, Xingluan?" "You're right." Xingluan nodded. The old man squinted his eyes and asked, "I want to know the content of your deal. Don't hide it and don't lie because you can't hide it for long. I'm afraid more unforeseen events will happen once it's exposed." "Grandpa, Mr. Tang needs the Sorcerer's Stone, and he's willing to exchange it with medicinal pills," said Xingluan. "I didn't know about medicinal pills before, but after I got them from Mr. Tang, I realized how helpful they are to our witchcraft cultivation." The old man looked incredulous and angrily shouted, "Shut the hell up! Don't you know what the Sorcerer's Stone means to our Dark Shaman clan? It's the foundation of our Dark Shaman clan and the best auxiliary material for our cultivation. Without the Sorcerer's Stone, none of the clansmen of our clan will be able to cultivate to a strong realm in the future." You're a bastard." "That's because you don't understand what medicinal pills mean to us witchcraft cultivation, Grandpa," said Xingluan indifferently. "I can tell you that with just 1 pill, my strength advanced by leaps and bounds. In just a few short days, I advanced by a whole realm. It's only been a few months since I met Mr. Tang, but I've taken 2 medicinal pills from him during this period, and my cultivation has also broken through 2 realms. Do you think I can break through 2 realms in such a short time just by absorbing the witchcraft power from the Sorcerer's Stone?" The old man looked at Xingluan with a bewildered expression. After a long while, he said, "Don't talk nonsense. Don't tell me that the elders of our clan haven't discovered it if the medicinal pills are useful to us witchcraft cultivators?" Xingluan pointed to the delicate woman and his 5 guardian elders and seriously said, "I'm absolutely not lying. I know it's meaningless to lie. All 6 of them have taken the medicinal pills, so their cultivation has improved a lot. You may not know about it, but my father must know about my previous strength. I'm afraid he also knows about the strength of the 6 of them. But look at us now. Aren't we much stronger than before?" Xingchuo could sense the aura released by Xingluan's group of 7. In just a few seconds, he was dumbfounded and shocked to the point that it was difficult to be more shocked. Previously, he heard from the 13 shaman guardians that Xingluan's strength had greatly improved. Even his men's strength had advanced by leaps and bounds, to the point that they were almost on par with Xingguo and his 5 guardian elders. He didn't believe it at that time, but now it seemed to be true. "Your surname is Tang?" Xingchuo looked at Tan Xiao and asked. "That's right. My surname is Tan Xiao," said Tan Xiao with a faint smile. "If you know more about Hua Xia, I'm afraid you should know me." Chapter 979. Xingchuo shot a deep look at Tan Xiao before he turned to the old man and whispered. He didn't pay much attention to China's affairs, so it was natural that he had never heard of Tan Xiao's name. At this time, he was like a fish on the chopping block. The toxin in his body was spreading at an extremely fast speed. He couldn't fight back even if he wanted to. After a long while, Xingchuo looked at Tan Xiao and asked in a deep voice, "Will you retreat immediately if I pass the patriarch position to Xingluan?" "That's right. We don't have any enmity with your Dark Shaman clan. Tang Xiu nodded and said, "Our visit to your clan this time is just to help Singluan take the patriarch's seat of your clan. We won't stay here to tangle with you if our goal has been achieved." "What about the antidote?" asked Xingchuo slowly. Tan Xiu took out a porcelain bottle and threw it to Xingchuo, saying, "This is the antidote. However, the poison in your body is very special and can't be completely removed for the time being. Therefore, you'll need to take the antidote once a year. I'll give Singluan 10 years worth of the antidote. If you don't cause trouble for him within 10 years and obey his orders, I'll naturally remove the poison in your body." What? Xingchuo and the old man's complexion drastically changed. Even the faces of more than a dozen senior members of the Dark Shaman clan turned livid. They glared at Tan Xiu, but none of them dared to say anything that would offend Tan Xiu. At this moment, their bodies were getting weaker and they even felt faint pain all over their bodies. "Don't misunderstand me. I don't want to control your lives. I'm just thinking about Singluan," said Tan Xiu with a straight face. "He's weak in your clan. What if you bully him after I leave? Therefore, you only have two choices now: continue to resist and die without a burial place, or give the position to Singluan and see him as the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan. Not only will you get benefits, but you can also witness the Dark Shaman clan getting stronger and stronger." The old man paced 2 steps toward Tan Xiu and said, "You're Tan Xiu, right? You kept saying that giving the patriarch position to Singluan will be very beneficial to us. What I want to know now is, what kind of benefits can we get? If we trade sorcerer stones with you in the future, will the medicinal pills we get be as powerful as Singluan said?" "If you don't believe me, I'll give you sorcerer stones," replied Tan Xiu calmly. 200 sorcerer stones for 1 medicinal pill." "What?" The old man's expression changed drastically, and his eyes revealed a look of disbelief. The old man's expression drastically changed, and he was filled with incredulity. This was simply demanding an exorbitant price. Did he take himself for a fool? Singluan shot a surprised look at Tang Xiu and asked with a puzzled expression, "What's going on, Mr. Tang?" Tan and Tan Xiu, and said. Singing Singly Tan Xiu interrupted, "I said. Singly I Tan Singmen said. Tan added saying, "Tan, I have to be. You must be prepared to be slaughtered if you want to get the medicinal pill from me." Singluan instantly understood Tan Xiu's meaning and shot him a grateful look. He felt that it was a great fortune for him to know Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and continued, "Singluan does have a lot of medicinal pills, but I gave them to him in advance. Now, I'm waiting for him to pay with sorcerer stones. I'm sure he won't be stingy if he becomes the patriarch of your Dark Shaman clan." Singluan was shaken inwardly and his gratitude toward Tan Xiu deepened. He realized that Tan Xiu was helping him to gain the recognition of his clan. All of a sudden, he realized that everything Tang Xiu did ever since he came to Bangkok was to help him. Whether it was making friends with Bangkok's underworld Emperor Kanaja or coming to his family, Tang Xiu's purpose was all for his own good. What a true brother! Singluan compared his elder brother, Xingguo, with Tan Xiu. He found that Xingguo was a villain who harbored evil intentions toward him, whereas Tan Xiu regarded him as a brother. Tan Xiu couldn't figure out what Singluan was thinking. He looked at the somewhat absent-minded Singluan and reminded him, "Singluan, it's time for you to declare your position." Singluan woke up from his absent-mindedness and shot a deep look at Tan Xiu. Then, he glanced at the clan's top brass and spoke in a deep voice, "Grandpa, father, and all the elders of the clan. You've watched me grow up and I've never harmed the interests of our clan from the beginning to the end. But my elder brother, Xingguo, has always regarded me as a thorn in his side and can't wait to get rid of me. I don't want to die, but I can't be compared with Xingguo in terms of strength and power. That's why I can only resist and rely on Mr. Tang's power. Had it been before, I wouldn't have dared to dream about becoming the patriarch of the clan. But ever since I got the pill refined by Mr. Tang, my cultivation has advanced by leaps and bounds. I'm now at least 10 times stronger than before. As for my subordinates, such as the 5 guardian elders, their strength has increased by leaps and bounds because they took the medicinal pills. They now possess great power. So, since I can change the cultivation of me and my subordinates, Why can't I change the strength of the entire clan and make the overall strength of the Dark Shaman clan a step further? I promise you that if I become the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan, I'll definitely make all of you break through to a higher level within 3 months. If I can't fulfill my promise today, I'm willing to give up the patriarch position and return it to my father. I'll also withdraw from the Dark Shaman clan and have nothing to do with the clan in the future. Are you serious? Asked Xingqiu in a deep voice. I'm an adult, so I'll naturally be responsible for my words, said Xingluan solemnly. If I'm lying, I'll be at your disposal, father. Xingqiu looked at his father and found that he nodded to him. Then he immediately said in a clear voice, I hereby declare that I, Xingqiu, will pass the patriarch position to Xingluan from today onward. He will be the patriarch of the Dark Shaman clan. 3 days later, the clan will hold an ancestral worship ceremony. Mr. Tang, since Xingluan is your friend, I hope you can stay and watch the ceremony. 3 days later? Tan Xiu slightly furrowed his brows. He wanted to leave Bangkok as soon as possible and return to Jingmen Island as soon as possible. He wanted to use a secret technique to move Gu Yen Er's exquisite pagoda to 9 Dragons Island. Ring, ring, ring. His cell phone suddenly rang at this moment. Tan Xiu slightly furrowed his brows and took out his mobile phone. A suspicious look immediately appeared on his face as he picked up the call and asked, What's up? Tom Reggie's voice came out of the phone. Something happened, boss. Someone spread the news that a treasure is about to appear in the sea area near 9 Dragons Island. Moreover, it's a treasure that will bring great benefits to many cultivators. A lot of suspicious foreigners have appeared in Saipan. Almost all of them are in contact with local shipping companies, and some of them have even gone to sea. Tan Xiu's expression changed and a crazy killing intent burst out from his eyes. 9 Dragons Island was located in the depths of the Pacific Ocean. It was absolutely impossible for a treasure to appear there. Whoever spread the news must be harboring evil intentions and wanted to expose 9 Dragons Island to all the cultivators. But now, there were many cultivators in the world. Although the number of cultivators was not that many, there were countless other cultivators, such as ability users, witchcraft cultivators, Buddhist cultivators, and even the alien races in the Dark Parliament. If all the cultivators in the world were to focus their attention on 9 Dragons Island, it would be very difficult to guarantee that the island wouldn't appear under everyone's eyes. At that time, if someone fanned the flames and said that the treasure was on 9 Dragons Island, he would become the enemy of all the cultivation forces. Damn! Those damned Celestial Wizard clan. Tan Xiu clenched his fists and a crazy killing intent burst out from his eyes. He had to admit that the Celestial Wizard clan's methods were too ruthless. They actually wanted all the cultivation forces in the world to avenge their clansmen. Perhaps, they even planned to wait for him and the other forces to fight to the point where both sides suffered losses. Then, the Celestial Wizard clan would appear again and directly reap the benefits. At this moment, everyone present shifted their eyes to Tan Xiu with a confused look. They couldn't figure out why Tan Xiu suddenly burst out with such a huge killing intent. Boss! Mo strode to Tan Xiu's side and called out in a low voice with a concerned look in his eyes. Send some people to hunt and assassinate the Celestial Wizard clan, said Tan Xiu in a heavy tone. Find a way to kill them as long as they leave their clan's land. Whoever kills more Celestial Wizard clansmen will be rewarded more. Also, contact the largest assassin organization in the world. I'm willing to offer a bounty of $1 billion for the lives of the Celestial Wizard clansmen. I'll set the bounty at $1 million for a Celestial Wizard clansman's life. Until $1 billion is used up. Mo's expression changed. They had just fought with the Celestial Wizard clan's powerhouses and routed them, forcing them to flee in panic. Now that the boss issued such an order in a fit of rage, it was very likely that the Celestial Wizard clan had done something to make him angry. I'll contact them right away. Killing intent flashed in Mo's eyes as he strode toward the distance. Tan Xiu shifted to Tang Guang and said in a deep voice, I remember what I told you before, right? Go find Zi at once and be sure to do what I told you. I'll give you 3 months. 3 months later, I need to see a group of elite troops ready to serve me at any time. I'll go right away, Grandmaster. Tang Guang cupped his fists in reply and strode away lightning fast. Said Tan Xiu again, I'll leave Jin Shi and the rest to you from now on. I don't want the celestial wizard clansmen to appear outside their clan's land again. Also, pay attention to the Stygian Club's people and assassinate them if you find any stragglers. I don't want you to leave any traces behind, nor do I want your actions to bring me any trouble. Understood? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.